What if the world we know is only a thin layer, beneath which lie secrets we were never meant to understand? Across deserts, oceans, and forgotten ruins, archaeologists have stumbled upon discoveries so strange, so impossibly advanced, they challenge the very timeline of human history. Perfectly carved stones hidden in prehistoric caves. Ancient cities buried deeper than engineering should allow. Artifacts crafted with techniques centuries ahead of their time. With each new excavation, the past becomes less familiar, its shadows stretching longer, its mysteries growing louder. Were these anomalies accidents of nature, lost technologies, or traces of civilizations far more sophisticated than we imagined? Tonight, we open the doors to these enigmas. So settle in and let's step into the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, one puzzle at a time. High in the remote mountains of Azerbaijan, carved into a sheer limestone cliff that rises like a fortress above the forest canopy, lies a structure that defies both expectation and easy interpretation. Locals call it Parigala, the fairy castle. From a distance, its pale facade seems almost spectral, a geometric imprint carved into the rock wall as if placed there by some invisible hand. Terraces, narrow stairways, and small chambers appear to float hundreds of feet above the ground, unreachable except by a perilous path that itself has nearly eroded into myth. It is a place that feels suspended between worlds, too elaborate to be natural, yet too isolated and impractical to fit neatly into the known patterns of ancient life. As one approaches the cliff, the silence deepens. The forest below is thick, but the air near the plateau carries an odd stillness, as though the landscape itself is guarding a secret. From the base, the vertical complexity of Parigala becomes clearer. The carved chambers are not random hollows. They appear deliberate, rectilinear forms, intentionally shaped openings, and surfaces smoothed beyond the touch of weather alone. Archaeologists estimate the site dates somewhere between the 4th and 9th centuries, yet even this wide range remains debated. Little material evidence has survived to anchor the site firmly within any specific era. What remains is structure without story, and a riddle without a clear beginning. According to one mainstream perspective, Parigala may have been a refuge, perhaps a sanctuary created during periods of conflict when early Christian communities sought safe, hidden places to practice their faith. The geography fits the logic of retreat: difficult access, high elevation, and limited visibility from the valleys below. Some researchers compare it to the rock-cut monasteries found across Anatolia and the Caucasus, which were often positioned in similarly dramatic landscapes. If Parigala belonged to this lineage, it might have served as a hermitage, a small stronghold, or a place of solitude for ascetics who dedicated their lives to isolation and contemplation. But if that is the case, a simple question emerges. Why build it here, on a vertical cliff face where construction would have been extraordinarily dangerous? Even hermits require some degree of practicality. Water would have been scarce. Supplies would have been nearly impossible to deliver, and the structure's precarious perch offers little strategic advantage against sustained attack. The manpower, tools, and expertise required to carve rooms into solid limestone at such a height suggest a community with significant resources, skill, and determination. This would be unusual for a small religious sect on the margins of society. Other theories focus on the region's mythology. In Azerbaijani folklore, Peri are ethereal beings, spirits or fairies associated with mountains, remote places, and hidden worlds. Parigala, then, becomes the Castle of the Fairies, a name reflecting both its appearance and its mystery. Of course, No historian would claim it was truly built by supernatural beings. Yet the mythic label indicates that even ancient people viewed it as something beyond the ordinary. Structures that inspire legends often do so because they challenge the understanding of their own time. Perhaps locals centuries ago looked upon this site with the same bewilderment we feel today. The absence of historical records leaves space for further speculation. Some researchers propose that Parigala might have been part of a defensive signaling system, with cliffside structures serving as lookout stations across the region. Yet Parigala's chambers are too small, too enclosed, and too precariously positioned for effective military use. Others imagine it as a royal or noble retreat, a symbolic structure meant to demonstrate power or spiritual authority. But again, no artifacts or inscriptions tie it to any known ruler, kingdom, or religious order. Then there are the more speculative ideas, the ones whispered rather than declared. Could Parigala have been a site of ritual significance, chosen precisely because of its dramatic and inaccessible location? Some ancient cultures favored high, commanding places for ceremonies tied to sky or mountain deities. Were these chambers meant for isolation, initiation, observation of celestial events? There is no firm evidence for such purposes, yet the architecture's improbable position suggests motivations beyond simple habitation. A handful of fringe researchers even wonder whether Parigala might represent the remnants of an older, now lost tradition of rock-cut engineering, one that predates known historical cultures in the region. They point to the site's unusual placement and the precision of its cuts as clues to a forgotten method or intention. These theories are difficult to evaluate. They often rely on the absence of data rather than its presence. And yet, in the quiet space between what is known and what is imagined, they linger, if only because the site itself refuses to give up its answers. Walking along the narrow ledges today, one senses just how intentional every architectural decision must have been. The chambers are small but not crude. The openings are aligned not randomly but with a sense of order. The builders, whoever they were, had a vision. They had purpose, and they were willing to undertake remarkable risks to bring that purpose into the world. So what was Parigala? A refuge carved by fleeing monks? A secretive ritual site? A monument to a lost tradition? Or something else entirely? Something we have yet to frame within the limits of our current understanding? No definitive answer has emerged, and perhaps that is part of its enduring power. High on its cliff, untouched by time except for the slow erosion of stone, Parigala remains a quiet enigma. It asks no questions, offers no explanations, and stands as a reminder that some chapters of human history remain deliberately hidden, or simply forgotten. For now, the fairy castle keeps its silence, leaving us to wonder what stories still lie concealed within its ancient walls, and whether the truth of its creation is waiting to be rediscovered, or destined to remain a mystery carved into the face of the mountain. And as we leave the quiet, wind-swept heights of Parigala behind, our journey moves from the solid certainty of ancient stone to something altogether more delicate and infinitely stranger. Far from the cliffs of Azerbaijan, in a small private collection said to originate from rural Japan, lies an object that has puzzled researchers, folklorists, and skeptics alike. A figure known today as the Sheeto Mermaid mummy. At first glance, it is a creature that seems suspended between worlds. Its upper body resembles that of a small humanoid, thin arms folded across a withered chest, a face frozen in what could be mistaken for a silent, eternal scream. But below the waist, the form shifts dramatically. Scales, fins, and a long, tapering tail crafted with almost anatomical care. Tiny teeth line the partially opened jaw, while strands of what appears to be fine hair cling to its brittle skull. The entire figure, barely the length of a human forearm, is wrapped in layers of centuries-old fabric and held together by a fragile lattice of dried skin, resin, and bone. The Sheeto mermaid mummy belongs to a category of artifacts known in Japanese folklore as ningyo, mythical sea creatures believed to bring misfortune, miracles, or spiritual significance depending on the tale. Some were said to be captured by fishermen. Others were kept as temple relics, displayed not as curiosities, but as warnings or blessings. Historically, several such mummified forms have appeared across East Asia, many created during the Edo period by artisans who combined parts of fish, small animals, and papier-mâché to satisfy both spiritual demand and popular fascination. And yet, the Sheeto mermaid stands apart. The craftsmanship, if that is indeed what it is more intricate than most known ningyo specimens. The transitions between tissue types, human-like to piscine, are seamless. The bone structure within the torso, observed through modern, non-invasive imaging, appears coherent rather than crudely assembled. And the materials, though aged, show a uniformity that complicates simple explanations. How could a forger, centuries ago, have achieved such consistency without modern tools or adhesives? The mainstream view places the Sheeto mermaid among the many ritualistic creations produced during a time when mystery, religion, and entertainment often blurred together. Traveling performers frequently used such artifacts to draw crowds, while certain shrines displayed them as physical embodiments of moral lessons, the instability of life, the consequences of greed, the fragility of human desire. In this interpretation, the mummy is not a biological marvel, but a cultural one, a testament to the power of narrative and belief. But if that were the full explanation, why do some features resist easy categorization? Detailed analysis, conducted by independent researchers, suggests that the mummy's upper body contains components not easily traced. Some material resembles mammalian bone, but with irregularities not typical of small primates or rodents. The lower body includes fish elements, yes, but assembled in a way that follows a natural vertebral pattern rather than a forced, artificial one. Even anomalies, such as the shape of the skull and the articulation of the hands, have sparked debate. Are these simply the result of creative design? Or do they hint at an object constructed with knowledge or purpose we no longer fully recognize? Adding to the mystery are the stories surrounding its origin. The Sheeto mermaid is said to come from a temple that burned in the early 20th century, leaving only a handful of relics rescued from the flames. The accounts are inconsistent. Some describe monks who revered the creature as a guardian spirit, while others recall it as a cursed object, sealed away to prevent its voice from reaching the living. No surviving documentation has been verified. What remains is hearsay, tradition, and fragments of memory. Yet even these uncertain tales raise a quiet question. What prompts generations of people to treat an artifact like this with reverence rather than dismissal? More speculative interpretations drift into symbolic territory. Some suggest the Sheeto mermaid might represent historical anxieties about the sea, storms, scarcity, the unpredictable nature of maritime life. Others see it as a ritual offering, crafted to appease local deities or invoke protection. A few theorists, more daring in their imagination, wonder whether such objects were based on actual encounters with unusual marine species, misidentified, exaggerated, or transformed through the lens of folklore. And then there are the fringe perspectives, ideas suggesting that the Sheeto mermaid's anatomy hints at something beyond human or animal, a relic from a culture that encoded myths into physical form, or an attempt to preserve knowledge about creatures that once existed in forms unfamiliar to us today. These theories occupy a delicate space, neither provable nor disprovable, suspended like the artifact itself between possibility and belief. Standing before the Sheeto mermaid, one is struck not by horror, but by quiet ambiguity. Its small form evokes both fragility and intention. It is easy to imagine it as the centerpiece of whispered prayers, or the focal point of cautionary tales told to children who lived close to the unforgiving sea. Whether created as spiritual symbol, artistic expression, or something else entirely, the mummy carries an undeniable presence, one that feels older than its materials and heavier than its size. And so we are left with a familiar tension, an artifact that should be simple, yet refuses to be. What is the Sheeto mermaid? A crafted relic of belief? A misunderstood creation? A masterpiece of early anatomical illusion? Or a reminder that our ancestors sometimes walked closer to mystery than we realize? No matter the answer, one thing is certain. The Sheeto mermaid continues to hold its place on the thin line between the known and the unknown, inviting us to look deeper, to question what we think we understand, and to wonder what other stories may still be hiding in the quiet corners of the past. And as we leave behind the fragile enigma of the Sheeto mermaid mummy, an artifact crafted somewhere between faith, artistry, and uncertainty, we step into a very different realm of mystery. A realm not of mythic creatures or carved legends, but of metallurgy, and of a single object that should not have been possible in its time. Deep within the treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb, nestled among gold, alabaster, and ceremonial relics, lies one of the most perplexing weapons in ancient history, a dagger with a blade forged from iron. But this is no ordinary iron. Its surface, polished to a subtle sheen, displays a soft, mottled glow. Neither the rust-prone red of terrestrial iron nor the brittle dullness expected of metal produced in the Bronze Age. Instead, it carries a faint, almost celestial shimmer, the mark of an unexpected origin. This is the Hittite iron dagger, a gift, or perhaps a diplomatic treasure, placed carefully at the side of the boy king as he entered eternity. The handle is made of exquisite gold, adorned with intricate designs. Its pommel, crafted from rock crystal, reflects a mastery of detail. And the blade? It has been the subject of debate for decades. When Howard Carter uncovered Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, archaeologists expected to find a wealth of gold, but iron, especially iron forged with such quality, was a different matter entirely. Egypt, during the 14th century BCE, did not possess the technology to smelt iron effectively. In fact, iron of the time was so rare that it was considered more valuable than gold. To find a dagger of such purity in a young pharaoh's burial was more than surprising. It was deeply anomalous. Scientific examination eventually revealed the blade's extraordinary nature. It was made from meteoritic iron, an alloy rich in nickel and cobalt. Tests showed unmistakable chemical signatures associated with iron meteorites, materials that had fallen from the sky and shattered upon impact with Earth long before humanity learned to harness metal from ore. The ancient Egyptians knew nothing of astrophysics, but they recognized the significance of a gift from the heavens. They called such metal Ba'an Pet, meaning iron from the sky. Objects forged from it were thought to hold divine power. To place such a blade with Tutankhamun, a boy king burdened with the weight of expectation, may have been symbolic, a gesture of celestial protection in life and an offering to the gods in death. But the mystery deepens when we consider the dagger's craftsmanship. Meteoritic iron is extremely difficult to work with. Its high nickel content makes it hard, resistant, and temperamental during forging. Even modern blacksmiths find it challenging. Yet the blade found in Tutankhamun's tomb is flawlessly shaped, symmetrical, and expertly polished. How did smiths over 3,000 years ago achieve what should have required knowledge and skill far beyond their era? And more importantly, who forged it? Many scholars believe the blade was a diplomatic gift from the Hittites, a powerful civilization from Anatolia known for their early ironworking techniques. The Hittites, unlike the Egyptians, possessed emerging expertise in manipulating iron, though even they remained limited by the unpredictability of meteoritic material. Historical records reference correspondence between the Egyptian royal court and the Hittite king, particularly during the period of Tutankhamun's predecessors. It is entirely plausible that the dagger was part of a royal exchange meant to solidify alliances. But the Hittite explanation opens additional questions. If it was indeed a Hittite artifact, why does its style differ from other known Hittite daggers of the time? Why does its craftsmanship exceed what is typically attributed to them? And why does this specific piece appear to reflect a degree of metallurgical sophistication centuries ahead of the broader ancient Near East? Some historians suggest that specialized artisans, individuals working in royal workshops with access to rare materials, may have developed unique, now-lost methods of shaping meteoritic iron. Others propose that the dagger was created not for battle, but as a ceremonial object, formed through techniques employed only for elite offerings. In this interpretation, the dagger becomes not a weapon, but a symbol, an emblem of kingship forged from the sky itself. More speculative theories take a different turn. A few researchers point out that meteoritic iron, scattered across deserts and impact fields, had been collected for millennia. Could certain ancient cultures have studied these fallen fragments more closely than we assume? Might they have observed their unusual properties, experimented with their hardness, or recognized patterns in their composition? If so, the dagger could represent a pinnacle of an early scientific curiosity, one that history failed to preserve in writing. Others look to mythology. If ancient societies believed that iron from the sky carried divine essence, then forging a blade from it may not have been simply a demonstration of skill, but a ritualistic process. Some fringe perspectives imagine ceremonies in which smiths invoked celestial powers, interpreting meteoritic iron as a physical link between the mortal world and the heavens. In that view, the dagger becomes an object of spiritual engineering as much as metallurgical craftsmanship. And then there are the theories that drift toward the outer edges of speculation, suggesting that meteoritic artifacts may have inspired legends of sky gods, or that cultures interacting with such rare materials interpreted them as signs of otherworldly contact. These ideas remain unprovable, but they reflect a truth about human history. When faced with the unknown, people have always looked upward. What is undeniable is this: the dagger, placed beside Tutankhamun's mummified form more than 3,000 years ago, embodies a perfect intersection of the earthly and the celestial. It is an object that bridges gaps between cultures, between technologies, and between worlds. And yet, we still do not fully understand its story. Was it truly a diplomatic gift from the Hittites? Was it forged in a royal Egyptian workshop using techniques now lost to time? Or does it represent something even older, a fragment of a tradition that once connected humanity more directly to the sky? For now, the Hittite iron dagger remains an artifact of quiet brilliance, its polished blade carrying the faint glimmer of the cosmos. It stands as both a triumph of ancient craftsmanship and a reminder that the past holds secrets far more complex than the fragments we uncover. And as we continue our journey through the world's most mysterious discoveries, we are left with a question that lingers. How many other ancient objects, tucked away in tombs or buried beneath shifting sands, hold stories written not on earth, but in the stars? And as we leave behind the cosmic gleam of Tutankhamun's meteoritic dagger, an object forged from materials that fell from the heavens, we turn our attention from the sky to the sea. For beneath the waters of the Gulf of Corinth, in a landscape shaped by shifting earth and ancient catastrophe, lies a city once believed to be nothing more than a cautionary tale, a Greek echo of Atlantis. This is Helike, the sunken city. At first glance, the region shows no sign of the bustling metropolis that once dominated the northern Peloponnese. Rolling fields, quiet villages, and a shoreline shaped by centuries of geological change offer little hint of the past. Yet, below the surface, both beneath shallow coastal waters and buried under layers of silt, lie the remains of a city that vanished in a single night. The story begins in the winter of 373 BCE. Ancient texts describe a strange and unsettling sequence of events. Animals fled the city, thousands of them, days before disaster struck. Fishermen reported unusual disturbances in the sea, as though the waters themselves were stirring from within. Then, without warning, a violent earthquake tore through the region. Buildings crumbled, streets split open. The great temples and marketplaces of Helike collapsed into ruin. And then came the sea. A massive wave surged inland, swallowing the city whole. By morning, Helike had vanished beneath the waters, its rooftops visible only for a brief moment before sinking entirely. For centuries afterward, travelers claimed to see the ghostly outlines of its buildings shimmering beneath the waves on calm days, a submerged reminder of sudden destruction, preserved in eerie stillness. For the ancient Greeks, Helike became a symbol. Philosophers invoked it as a warning about hubris, divine anger, and the fragility of human achievement. Later generations retold its disappearance as a moral tale, a story whispered alongside legends of great sunken civilizations. Some even believed it inspired Plato's account of Atlantis, another advanced city destroyed in a single catastrophic event. But legends, however enduring, often obscure the truth. For nearly 2,000 years, the real location of Helike remained unknown. Scholars searched the sea, mapped the coast, and debated whether the city lay offshore, inland, or lost entirely beneath geological transformations. Theories multiplied, each attempting to place a vanished city on a shifting landscape. The turning point came in the late 20th century. A team of Greek and international researchers launched a systematic survey of the region, using seismic equipment, boreholes, and underwater exploration. Their findings were startling. Instead of lying deep beneath the ocean, much of ancient Helike was discovered buried beneath layers of sediment in what used to be a lagoon, now several kilometers inland. Over centuries, rivers had deposited vast amounts of silt, gradually burying the drowned city. What was once seabed became marshland, and eventually became land again. Under this shifting terrain, archaeologists uncovered foundations, pottery, coins, tools, and even the remains of a large building believed to be part of Helike's agora, the bustling heart of civic life. This discovery solved one part of the mystery, where Helike was. But many questions still linger. Why did the animals flee? What caused the unusual disturbances in the sea? And how did an entire city disappear so completely, leaving behind so few obvious traces? Mainstream explanations focus on natural forces. The region sits along major fault lines. Catastrophic earthquakes are part of its history. Liquefaction, a process in which solid ground temporarily turns to liquid, could explain how entire structures sank rapidly into the earth. Tsunami evidence matches ancient descriptions. From this perspective, Helike's fate becomes a rare but scientifically understandable combination of tectonic shifts, soil conditions, and coastal dynamics. Yet some aspects of the story invite deeper contemplation. Ancient accounts describe a column of light rising from the sea before the quake. Was this a poetic metaphor? A phenomenon caused by gas release, as modern geologists suggest? Or something else observed by frightened witnesses who lacked the language to describe it? And what of the mass animal exodus? Across cultures and eras, animals have been documented fleeing regions shortly before earthquakes. But the scale described in Helike's case, entire populations disappearing into surrounding hills, suggests a magnitude of disturbance rarely seen. Some speculative theories extend these mysteries further. One line of thought suggests that Helike may have been built atop a volatile geological formation, perhaps containing pockets of gas or unstable rock, that contributed to both the city's wealth and its downfall. Another proposes that Helike was an early participant in pan-Hellenic networks, generating myths and stories that later influenced Plato's descriptions of advanced and doomed civilizations. A few fringe perspectives go even further, wondering whether Helike's destruction was part of a broader pattern of sudden collapses across ancient cultures, events that may have left physical traces now buried or eroded. These theories are difficult to substantiate, but they reflect humanity's enduring desire to connect isolated disasters into larger narratives. What is beyond debate is that Helike held significant religious importance. It was the center of the Achaean League and home to a renowned temple dedicated to Poseidon, god of the sea and earthquakes, a detail that would later fuel myths about divine retribution. To the ancient mind, the destruction of a city consecrated to such a deity must have seemed like more than coincidence. Was Helike a victim of nature, or the stage for a story shaped by belief? Modern excavations continue to reveal new layers of the lost city: workshops, roads, and objects left behind by people who woke one night to the earth moving beneath them. And offshore, divers have found additional structures, hints that part of the city may indeed rest beneath shallow waters, just as ancient writers described. Helike, then, is not simply a tale of disaster. It is a puzzle, a landscape shaped by shifting coastlines, layered histories, and stories preserved through time even when the physical city disappeared. Today, as scientists map its remains and reconstruct its layout, Helike reminds us that nature's quiet rhythms can change suddenly and profoundly. A thriving city can vanish. A coastline can move. A legend can emerge where a community once stood. And so, as we continue our journey through the world's most mysterious archaeological discoveries, the story of Helike lingers like a shadow beneath the water's surface. A city lost, found, and still only partly understood. What else lies buried beneath the shifting earth, waiting to be uncovered? And how many more ancient stories, half legend, half truth, remain hidden in places where land and sea continue their eternal conversation? As we leave behind the sunken streets of Helike, a city swallowed by both the sea and centuries of sediment, our journey returns to the land of ancient civilizations, where knowledge was recorded not in stone or structure, but on fragile, fading sheets of papyrus. Among the most extraordinary of these documents is the Turin Papyrus Map, a relic that offers a rare glimpse into the mind of an ancient engineer, yet carries enigmas that continue to intrigue scholars to this day. The map itself is deceptively modest in size. Unrolled, it stretches just over 2 feet long, its surface a network of faint ink lines, subtle color washes, and carefully measured symbols. But within this delicate sheet lies a precision that defies the expectations of its era. Unlike purely decorative or symbolic Egyptian art, the Turin Papyrus Map conveys information: topography, mineral deposits, and navigational guidance. It is not merely a record. It is a tool, and tools, when preserved across millennia, carry secrets far beyond their apparent purpose. The Turin Papyrus Map dates to approximately 1150 BCE, during the reign of Ramesses IV, a period of both imperial ambition and resource exploitation. Scholars have identified the subject of the map as a gold mining region in the eastern desert, a rugged expanse of rocky mountains and narrow wadis. The papyrus depicts mountains, valleys, and watercourses with remarkable accuracy, and includes notations about the quality and location of mineral veins. In effect, it is the world's oldest known topographical map, a document that guided expeditions and shaped economic and political decisions. Yet what makes the Turin Papyrus truly astonishing is not merely its function, but the sophistication of its design. The scale is consistent, elevations are indicated with remarkable subtlety, and the symbols used to represent geological features suggest an understanding of landscape that goes far beyond casual observation. For the Egyptians of the New Kingdom, working with primitive surveying tools, this represents a level of precision that modern archaeologists find striking. How did the mapmakers measure distances across such harsh terrain? How did they translate a three-dimensional landscape into a two-dimensional document with such clarity? The answers remain elusive. Mainstream explanations suggest that the map reflects the Egyptians' growing expertise in engineering and administration. Large-scale mining expeditions required careful planning. A misstep in logistics could result in lost labor, wasted provisions, or even fatalities. As such, the Turin Papyrus Map may have been a practical guide, drafted by an official trained in both geometry and geology, a blueprint for an ambitious state project. In this interpretation, it is a triumph of organization and intellect, a testament to the pragmatic genius of an ancient civilization. Yet, even within this practical framework, questions arise. The map includes details that appear unnecessary for simple mining operations, such as subtle variations in terrain or features that modern geologists would recognize as indicators of mineral composition. Were these included purely for efficiency, or did the map serve a secondary purpose, perhaps as a record of sacred landscapes, a document intertwining the practical and the symbolic? The Egyptians often saw no clear divide between the sacred and the utilitarian. Could the Turin Papyrus have been both a working guide and a spiritual text, encoding knowledge meant to survive both time and human scrutiny? Speculative interpretations extend these mysteries further. Some researchers suggest that the map's precision hints at surveying techniques that were advanced for the time, possibly lost or unrecorded in other historical sources. Others note that the use of color, rare for administrative documents, may encode information not immediately understood, perhaps the quality of ore, the presence of water, or even markers for ritual significance. In this light, the map becomes a puzzle, an artifact designed to communicate across centuries, yet whose full language remains only partially deciphered. A few fringe theories, cautious yet intriguing, even propose that the map represents a level of geographical knowledge that exceeds what is commonly attributed to ancient Egypt. Could the mapmakers have had a systematic method for measuring distances and elevations that predates modern surveying techniques? Were there traditions of applied geoscience, methods of observation, experimentation, and record-keeping that have been lost to history? The Turin Papyrus does not provide answers, but it silently testifies to the sophistication of a culture whose technological footprint we have only begun to understand. The artifact itself is fragile, its edges tattered, its pigments faded. Conservators have labored for decades to preserve it, but even in its current state, the map retains an aura of purpose and mystery. When scholars examine the fine brushstrokes, the precise ink lines, and the careful notations, they are reminded that this was no casual sketch. This was the product of human observation, calculation, and planning, an early attempt to render the natural world with clarity and accuracy. And yet, we must ask, how much knowledge has been lost alongside it? If the Egyptians could conceive of such detailed maps, what other tools, techniques, and records might have existed that never survived the passage of time? And how did the creators of the Turin Papyrus measure, calculate, and represent the world around them with such precision, in an era we often assume was constrained by rudimentary methods? The Turin Papyrus Map challenges assumptions about the boundaries of ancient technology. It reminds us that human curiosity and ingenuity are not modern inventions. They are threads woven through history, sometimes visible, sometimes obscured, but always present. It is a map of terrain, yes, but also a map of possibility, evidence that those who came before us understood more than we sometimes give them credit for, and that mysteries can survive in the most delicate of forms. As we study its lines, we are left with a quiet, lingering question. What else did the ancients know, record, or create that has slipped beyond our reach? The Turin Papyrus is a guide to gold, but it also guides us toward wonder, toward the realization that beneath the sands and scrolls of history, there are discoveries waiting to illuminate the ingenuity, ambition, and subtle brilliance of civilizations long past. And so, as we continue our exploration of the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the map remains both a tool and a testament, a silent, fragile invitation to look closer, measure carefully, and never underestimate the minds of those who lived thousands of years before us. As we leave behind the delicate lines of the Turin Papyrus Map, a record of ancient observation and human ingenuity, our journey now turns to a discovery both imposing and enigmatic, a relic of death and mystery, shrouded in shadow and centuries of legend. Off the shores of Alexandria, in the sun-scorched sands of Egypt's historic necropolis, lies a monument that has captured imaginations and sent shivers through archaeologists. The Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria. The sarcophagus itself is massive, its surface carved from a single slab of dark granite that absorbs the sunlight rather than reflecting it. Roughly 2 meters long, it dominates the excavation site, its sheer weight and scale a reminder of both human ambition and the enduring mystery of the past. Its lid is etched with intricate designs, faint hieroglyphs, geometric motifs, and shapes whose meaning is tantalizingly unclear. The entire structure exudes a gravity that feels almost alive, a silent sentinel guarding secrets for millennia. When the sarcophagus was first uncovered in 2018 by construction workers in Alexandria, the reaction was immediate and intense. Archaeologists rushed to the site, wary of the potential fragility of the ancient stone, yet drawn by the impossible scale of the find. Opening it, however, revealed not a simple tomb, but an object of increasing enigma, a dark, reddish liquid that seemed almost viscous, filling the interior to an unexpected depth. Even more puzzling, the liquid's composition resisted immediate explanation. Initial tests showed no clear decomposition of organic material, and its chemical properties confounded initial assumptions about burial practices in Ptolemaic Egypt. Historians quickly placed the sarcophagus within the late Hellenistic period, roughly around the 1st century BCE. Alexandria, at the time, was a bustling center of commerce, culture, and religious plurality. Tombs of remarkable size were not unknown. The city housed some of the most ambitious funerary constructions of the ancient world. Yet even in context, the Black Sarcophagus stands apart. Its unusual coloration, colossal proportions, and the mysterious liquid challenge conventional understanding. Why would a tomb be sealed with such a volume of unknown fluid? Was it merely a burial practice lost to time, or something intended to preserve, to protect, or perhaps even to warn? Mainstream interpretations lean toward practical explanations. Some archaeologists suggest the liquid could be a combination of oils, resins, and other organic substances intended to slow decay or to honor the deceased according to ritual. Others see the tomb as a high-status burial, possibly for a member of Alexandria's elite, perhaps a noble priest or magistrate. In this reading, the sarcophagus reflects both the wealth and the funerary customs of a culture obsessed with death, immortality, and the afterlife. But even these explanations leave room for intrigue. The sheer size of the sarcophagus would have required extraordinary effort to quarry, transport, and position, especially in a city where space was limited and labor precious. And the interior liquid, deep and still present after more than 2,000 years, defies expectations. Why would a tomb's occupant, whose identity remains unknown, be encased in a substance that does not conform to typical burial oils or embalming practices? Speculative theories quickly emerged, fueled by the sarcophagus's foreboding appearance and the unusual contents within. Some researchers suggest that the tomb may have been intended for someone associated with esoteric religious practices, a person whose burial required symbolic or protective rituals not widely recorded. Could the liquid have been a ceremonial component designed to guard against intrusion or desecration? Was it intended to symbolize blood, life, or a bridge to the underworld, a substance linking the mortal world to realms beyond? A few voices have even pondered the sarcophagus in the context of ancient curses, referencing the inscriptions on its lid, which some believe contain warnings. While no confirmed translation has been established, popular accounts of the discovery reported feelings of unease and anomalous events at the site, echoing tales long associated with Egyptian tombs. In a culture that revered death as a transition to eternity, might the black sarcophagus have been deliberately designed to instill fear or reverence in the living, a silent guardian of secrets too dangerous or sacred to reveal? Beyond these theories, the sarcophagus raises questions about the individuals who commissioned it, who possessed the wealth, influence, and ambition to create a tomb of such scale and uniqueness. Why has history left no direct record of this person, or the elaborate rituals implied by the find? And what might the unknown contents reveal about Ptolemaic Alexandria, a city whose political, cultural, and spiritual currents were far more complex than surviving documents allow us to fully comprehend? The black sarcophagus stands as a testament not only to human craftsmanship, but also to the unknown. Its dark stone, vast interior, and enigmatic liquid create a tension between what is known and what cannot yet be explained, a tension that has fueled both awe and apprehension. For archaeologists, it is a rare opportunity to study Ptolemaic funerary practices at their most ambitious. For historians, it is a challenge to integrate a singular anomaly into a broader narrative. And for those captivated by mystery, it becomes a symbol of the enduring power of objects to inspire wonder, speculation, and reverence. As conservators and researchers continue to examine the sarcophagus, employing chemical analyses, imaging technologies, and careful excavation techniques, one question persists above all others. What does it truly contain, and what can it reveal about the society that created it? Even in its partially understood state, the black sarcophagus reminds us that some chapters of human history remain deliberately obscured. A city built by Ptolemaic ambition hides its secrets not only in stone, but in substance. And as we peer into the dark, viscous depths of its interior, we are confronted with a timeless tension, the desire to know, and the recognition that some mysteries may persist beyond our grasp. So as we continue our journey through the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the black sarcophagus of Alexandria stands silent and immutable. It waits, holding its contents and its story in shadow, asking us quietly, how much of the past remains locked away, and what other secrets lie just beneath the surface, waiting to challenge everything we think we know? Beyond these theories, the sarcophagus raises questions about the individuals who commissioned it, who possessed the wealth, influence, and ambition to create a tomb of such scale and uniqueness. Why has history left no direct record of this person, or the elaborate rituals implied by the find? And what might the unknown contents reveal about Ptolemaic Alexandria, a city whose political, cultural, and spiritual currents were far more complex than surviving documents allow us to fully comprehend? The black sarcophagus stands as a testament not only to human craftsmanship, but also to the unknown. Its dark stone, vast interior, and enigmatic liquid create a tension between what is known and what cannot yet be explained, a tension that has fueled both awe and apprehension. For archaeologists, it is a rare opportunity to study Ptolemaic funerary practices at their most ambitious. For historians, it is a challenge to integrate a singular anomaly into a broader narrative. And for those captivated by mystery, it becomes a symbol of the enduring power of objects to inspire wonder, speculation, and reverence. As conservators and researchers continue to examine the sarcophagus, employing chemical analyses, imaging technologies, and careful excavation techniques, one question persists above all others. What does it truly contain, and what can it reveal about the society that created it? Even in its partially understood state, the Black Sarcophagus reminds us that some chapters of human history remain deliberately obscured. A city built by Ptolemaic ambition hides its secrets not only in stone, but in substance. And as we peer into the dark, viscous depths of its interior, we are confronted with a timeless tension, the desire to know, and the recognition that some mysteries may persist beyond our grasp. So as we continue our journey through the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria stands silent and immutable. It waits, holding its contents and its story in shadow, asking us quietly, how much of the past remains locked away, and what other secrets lie just beneath the surface, waiting to challenge everything we think we know? As we leave behind the shadowed and enigmatic depths of the Black Sarcophagus, a relic of Alexandria, whose secrets remain sealed in dark liquid, our journey shifts once more, this time to the arid plains of Mesopotamia, where the ruins of a mighty Assyrian city whisper of innovation, power, and technology that seems to defy the expectations of its age. Here lies Nimrud, the ancient capital of the Assyrian Empire, a city of monumental palaces, intricate reliefs, and an object that has captivated both historians and technologists alike, the so-called ancient solar lenses of Nimrud. The lenses themselves are small, seemingly unassuming artifacts. Carved from crystal or polished quartz, they measure only a few centimeters across, yet they are crafted with an exacting precision that immediately captures the eye. Each lens is smooth, convex, and nearly flawless, capable, according to modern experiments, of focusing sunlight into intense points of heat. Placed in the light of day, they bend and concentrate rays with surprising efficiency, their clarity remarkable for objects crafted over 3,000 years ago. Discovered during the excavations led by Austin Henry Layard in the mid-19th century, these lenses were initially catalogued as decorative ornaments or jewelry. Their minute imperfections were noted, but their potential functionality was largely overlooked in the shadow of the Assyrian palaces and monumental reliefs. It was not until modern researchers began experimenting with them that the implications became apparent. These small crystal artifacts could have been used as rudimentary magnifiers, focusing sunlight to ignite fires or to aid in detailed work. The mainstream explanation, grounded in the context of ancient Assyrian culture, suggests practical applications. The lenses may have served as magnifying tools for craftsmen, allowing artisans to engrave inscriptions, decorate ivory, or cut intricate designs in stone with greater precision. Alternatively, some scholars propose they could have been used to start fires, a symbolic act in ritual settings, or perhaps a functional tool for survival in a harsh climate. These interpretations emphasize the ingenuity of the Assyrians, a people whose reputation for engineering, warfare, and architectural sophistication is well documented. Yet the lenses inspire questions that linger beyond utilitarian explanations. How did craftsmen of Nimrud achieve such optical precision without modern tools or knowledge of refraction? The lenses are not crude shapes. They demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of how light interacts with transparent materials. Was this knowledge purely empirical, developed through repeated observation and experimentation? Or was there a theoretical understanding of optics that has been lost to history? And if these lenses were primarily utilitarian, why have so few survived? And why are they so rarely mentioned in contemporary texts? Some researchers have suggested more speculative possibilities. Could the lenses have had astronomical applications? In a civilization deeply attuned to celestial movements, capable of constructing monumental ziggurats aligned with stars, is it possible that these lenses were used to observe solar or lunar events with greater clarity? Might they have assisted priests or astronomers in tracking the sun's course, marking sacred days or predicting seasonal shifts, critical for agriculture and ritual? The Assyrians were meticulous record keepers, and yet no surviving cuneiform explicitly details the use of magnifying lenses for scientific purposes, leaving the precise intent of these artifacts tantalizingly unknown. As we leave the precise and enigmatic world of the ancient solar lenses of Nimrud, we shift from artifacts of ingenuity to the traces of entire communities whose sudden disappearance continues to perplex historians, archaeologists, and anthropologists alike. The story moves across continents, from the deserts of Mesopotamia to the rugged canyons and mesas of the American Southwest, where one of history's most enduring mysteries quietly awaits: the disappearance of the Anasazi. The Anasazi, also known as the ancestral Puebloans, thrived for centuries in what is now the Four Corners region of the United States, spanning parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. They were master builders, constructing multi-storied cliff dwellings carved into the sandstone walls of canyon alcoves, as well as sprawling pueblos that housed hundreds of people. These structures, often meticulously planned, reveal a society adept at agriculture, water management, and communal living. The sun would rise across the mesas, casting light upon kivas and plazas, while the wind whispered through canyons where generations of Anasazi once lived, worked, and worshipped. Yet, by the late 13th century, a remarkable and troubling change occurred. Many of these communities were abandoned. Towers, homes, and ceremonial spaces were left behind in apparent haste. Pottery was broken, food stores left, and valuable tools abandoned. Unlike other ancient societies that decline gradually over time, the Anasazi seem to have vanished from their most prominent settlements with startling speed. The contrast between the vibrant life preserved in architecture and the sudden emptiness of these spaces casts a long shadow across the archaeological record. Mainstream explanations point to environmental factors. Evidence from tree rings, sediment analysis, and climate studies suggests that the region experienced a series of severe droughts in the late 1200s. Crops failed, water sources diminished, and survival became increasingly precarious. In this view, the Anasazi migration represents a pragmatic response to environmental stress, a gradual movement toward more sustainable lands, often southward or to areas where resources remained abundant. Over time, these migrating groups became integrated into the communities of modern Pueblo peoples, carrying their cultural practices with them. Yet, even within this seemingly logical framework, questions abound. The pace and scope of abandonment were uneven. Some cliff dwellings appear to have been vacated quickly, almost overnight, while others were inhabited for decades longer. Why did entire communities leave behind perfectly functional buildings, while others nearby endured? Why do some sites show signs of ritual closure, with ceremonial objects carefully placed, while others appear abruptly deserted? And if environmental pressure alone prompted migration, why do some areas of the Southwest remain inhabited even during drought, suggesting that adaptation was possible? These ambiguities have fueled alternative theories. Some researchers explore the possibility of social upheaval, internal conflict, shifting trade networks, or resource competition could have contributed to the movement of populations. Evidence of fortifications and defensive structures hints at periods of tension, though not necessarily widespread warfare. Could the abandonment of key settlements have been influenced as much by social dynamics as by climate, with communities choosing to relocate to avoid conflict or consolidate power? Other speculations reach into the realm of cultural and spiritual interpretation. The Anasazi were deeply connected to the land, the seasons, and the cycles of the sky. Ceremonial kivas, intricate pottery, and petroglyphs suggest a rich spiritual life. Some scholars propose that environmental stress, combined with social and spiritual pressures, may have prompted a collective decision to relocate, a kind of ritual migration guided by prophetic knowledge or spiritual imperatives. In this reading, the disappearance is not simply a matter of survival, but of cultural continuity, a deliberate, intentional journey to preserve identity in new landscapes. A few fringe perspectives, while controversial, continue to capture popular imagination. Stories of sudden, unexplained departures, or of mysterious forces driving people from their homes, echo in local legend and oral histories. Some have speculated about disease, alien contact, or other extraordinary causes, though evidence remains absent. What these theories illustrate, however, is the enduring fascination of a society that could vanish so completely while leaving behind extraordinary architectural and artistic achievements. Modern archaeology continues to uncover fragments of life that complicate the picture further. Pottery shards, woven textiles, and remnants of maize and beans reveal that the Anasazi had a sophisticated agricultural system capable of sustaining large populations. Water catchment systems and terraced fields show a nuanced understanding of hydrology and soil management. And yet, despite these accomplishments, entire settlements were left behind, often on the precipices of cliffs that seem both defensible and daunting. How could a people so skilled in survival and adaptation abandon their homes with such finality? The mystery of the Anasazi disappearance serves as a reminder of the fragility of civilizations, even those that seem most resilient. It invites us to consider not only the tangible factors, climate, resources, social structure, but also the less tangible, belief systems, cultural choices, and human perception of danger and opportunity. Why did some communities choose to stay, while others left? How did collective decision-making shape the movement of thousands of people across rugged terrain? And what lessons remain hidden in the patterns of abandonment, settlement, and adaptation? As we stand in the shadow of cliff dwellings like those at Mesa Verde or Chaco Canyon, it is easy to feel the weight of absence. Walls and kivas endure, weathered by centuries, but the people themselves are gone from the sites that once bustled with life. The Anasazi disappearance is a story that defies simple explanation, a puzzle written into stone, soil, and the silent canyons that witnessed their passage. And so, as we continue our exploration of the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, we are left with a quiet, compelling question. How many other civilizations have quietly vanished, leaving behind traces that hint at brilliance, adaptation, and sudden mystery? The story of the Anasazi reminds us that history is not always linear, that survival is never guaranteed, and that the past still has the power to surprise, to intrigue, and to beckon us toward the unknown. As we leave behind the silent canyons of the ancestral Puebloans, whose cliff dwellings stand as haunting reminders of sudden disappearance and human resilience, our journey takes us across seas and millennia to the sun-drenched islands of the central Mediterranean. Here, on Malta, the earth itself bears the memory of a civilization whose ambition and ingenuity remain staggering. The megalithic temples of Malta. Rising from limestone plains, often surrounded by fields of wildflowers and the glimmer of distant sea, these temples are monuments of sheer stone, some of the oldest freestanding structures in the world. The walls, composed of massive blocks, some weighing tens of tons, form intricate layouts, with apses, corridors, and central spaces that suggest both ritual significance and architectural sophistication. Stepping among the temples, one is immediately struck by their scale and precision. Upright stones placed with a careful deliberation that speaks of planning, coordination, and a purpose that transcends mere shelter. The oldest of these structures, dating back as far as 3600 BCE, predate the pyramids of Egypt. Sites such as Gigantija, Hagar Chim, and Menajdra reveal complex construction techniques, including carefully leveled foundations, corbelled roofing, and intricate carvings of spirals, animals, and abstract motifs. These carvings, often etched into the megaliths themselves, suggest not only artistic expression but also symbolic or spiritual meaning, a coded language of ritual, cosmology, and perhaps even astronomy. Mainstream archaeological interpretations propose that the temples were ceremonial centers, dedicated to fertility, agricultural cycles, or veneration of deities. Some of the reliefs, particularly the recurring female figurines, are understood as representations of a mother goddess, reflecting the society's preoccupation with life, growth, and sustenance. The orientation of certain temple entrances, aligned with solstices and equinoxes, points to an advanced understanding of celestial movements, hinting at a culture deeply attuned to the rhythms of the sun and moon. Yet despite decades of study, the megalithic temples of Malta continue to provoke profound questions. How were these massive stones transported, some from quarries miles away, without the wheel or draft animals? How did a society without writing or apparent centralized authority organize the labor, logistics, and architectural planning necessary to create structures of such precision? And what knowledge or traditions enabled them to carve, position, and align their temples with celestial events? Knowledge that seems sophisticated even by modern standards. Some scholars speculate that the temples served multiple purposes beyond religious ceremony. Could they have functioned as centers of astronomical observation, marking seasonal changes critical to agriculture? Were they repositories of collective knowledge, integrating art, ritual, and early forms of proto-science? Or did their massive stones serve as memory devices, encoding communal history and identity into enduring physical form? The very scale of the megaliths suggests a society capable of long-term planning and collaboration, yet almost no records survive to tell us the names, stories, or beliefs of the people who built them. Speculative theories extend even further. Some researchers have considered the possibility that the temples embody knowledge of geometry and mathematics, preserved orally or visually, that allowed the builders to manipulate massive stones with accuracy. Others ponder the symbolic function of the stones themselves, suggesting that their placement, weight, and orientation may have been designed to channel spiritual or cosmic energies, a belief in the stones as more than inert material, as conduits of sacred power. Certain alignments with solstices, coupled with interior layouts, have led a few theorists to propose the temples were ancient observatories or ritual machines, where celestial observation and spiritual practice intertwined. The temples also raise questions about the society's eventual fate. By around 2500 BCE, construction ceased, and the island's population underwent dramatic shifts. Unlike the Anasazi, who left cliff dwellings abruptly, the Maltese builders seem to have gradually abandoned temple building. Why this sudden halt in such an accomplished architectural tradition? Environmental factors, resource depletion, or social change have all been suggested, yet no definitive explanation exists. The silence of the archaeological record leaves us imagining a people who once mobilized massive communal effort, then vanished from historical view, leaving only stone as testimony. Walking among the ruins today, one is struck by the harmony between human ambition and natural landscape. The temples rise from rolling limestone plateaus, their shadows stretching over cultivated fields and wild terrain. Even without roofs, the spaces retain a sense of enclosure, of intentionality, as if the builders shaped not only the stones, but also the experience of space itself. The carvings, worn yet resilient, hint at beliefs, rituals, and aesthetic sensibilities that cannot be fully reconstructed, reminding us that even in the absence of written records, human creativity endures. The megalithic temples of Malta are more than monuments. They are questions cast in stone. They challenge assumptions about what prehistoric societies could achieve, blending artistry, spirituality, and engineering in ways that continue to confound modern scholars. They demand we consider human capability across time, the limits of knowledge, and the ways in which memory, tradition, and innovation intertwine to create structures that outlast civilizations. As we continue our exploration of the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the temples stand silent but eloquent, a testament to ambition, skill, and the unknowable motives of their creators. Each stone, each carved spiral, each precisely placed block invites us to imagine not just the mechanics of construction, but the minds and beliefs that conceived it. And so, as the sun dips low over the Maltese horizon, casting long shadows across millennia-old walls, one is left to wonder, how much more remains hidden, both beneath the earth and in the recesses of human history? What knowledge, ingenuity, and cultural depth did the builders of these temples possess that we may never fully understand? In their enduring presence, the megalithic temples offer not answers, but an invitation to look closer, think deeper, and embrace the enduring mystery of our shared past. As the sun sets over the megalithic temples of Malta, casting long shadows across stones shaped by human hands thousands of years ago, we turn our gaze northward to the flat plains of what is now Germany. Here, buried beneath layers of soil and rediscovered through careful excavation, lies a discovery that may rewrite our understanding of prehistoric observation and early science, the ancient astronomical wheel of Goseck. At first glance, the Goseck circle appears deceptively simple, concentric rings of palisades, earthworks, and wooden posts forming a near-perfect circle over 50 meters in diameter. Yet within this structure lies a sophistication that has captivated archaeologists and astronomers alike. Carefully aligned openings in the rings correspond to the rising and setting positions of the sun during solstices, suggesting that the builders possessed a precise understanding of the solar calendar, millennia before written records of such knowledge existed. Standing at the center of the circle, one can feel the weight of both human ingenuity and deliberate observation, a place where time, sky, and earth converge. The Goseck Circle dates back to roughly 4,900 BCE, making it one of the oldest known solar observatories in the world. Its construction predates Stonehenge by nearly 1,000 years, yet the precision of alignment is comparable to much later megalithic structures. Archaeologists have carefully reconstructed its layout. 2 concentric wooden palisades encircle a central open area, with gateways aligned to the southeast and southwest. These openings are oriented to mark the winter solstice sunrise and sunset, effectively allowing the community to track the year and plan agricultural and ceremonial cycles. From a mainstream perspective, the Goseck Circle was a practical instrument of early agricultural society. For a community dependent on seasonal crops, understanding the sun's patterns was essential. Accurate tracking of solstices would have informed planting and harvesting schedules, and may have served as a ritualistic calendar to coordinate communal ceremonies. In this reading, the circle exemplifies the ingenuity of prehistoric societies, people observing nature, discerning patterns, and building structures that integrate daily life with cosmic cycles. Yet, despite its practical applications, the Goseck Circle raises questions that transcend utility. How did communities without written language or formal mathematics achieve such precise alignment? The careful positioning of posts suggests not random trial and error, but systematic observation over multiple generations. Did the builders possess an oral tradition of knowledge passed down in meticulous detail, or were these alignments discovered through empirical study, honed over decades of careful watching of the sky? The answers are tantalizingly elusive, preserved only in the soil, the placement of posts, and the alignment of gateways. Speculative interpretations have proposed additional layers of meaning. Some suggest that the circle was not solely an observatory, but also a ceremonial site, where the movements of the sun were ritually celebrated and integrated into social and religious life. Could the solstices have marked moments of communal significance, when leaders, shamans, or astronomers guided ceremonies designed to harmonize human activity with celestial rhythms? The concentric rings themselves, echoing eternity and cyclical time, may have held symbolic weight as much as functional utility, creating a sacred architecture that bridged the terrestrial and the cosmic. Other researchers have noted that the Goseck circle shares structural similarities with other prehistoric circular enclosures across Europe, suggesting that knowledge of solar alignment was not isolated, but part of a broader cultural understanding. Was there communication or shared tradition among distant communities, enabling them to coordinate methods of observation? Or did such structures arise independently, driven by universal human curiosity about the sun, sky, and the passage of time? A few fringe theories, while unverified, add another layer of intrigue. Some have speculated that the precise alignment and scale of the Goseck circle imply advanced knowledge of geometry or astronomy not typically associated with Neolithic societies. Could these ancient observers have had methods for predicting solar positions years in advance, or an intuitive understanding of celestial mechanics? While evidence is limited, such questions underscore the remarkable sophistication of a people whose technological and observational achievements are still only partially understood. Excavations at Goseck have revealed not only the wooden posts and palisades, but also traces of human habitation, pottery fragments, and ritual artifacts nearby. These finds suggest that the circle was integrated into a living, breathing community, rather than standing as an isolated monument. Generations may have gathered here to observe, to celebrate, and to mark the passage of time, creating a rhythm of life that synchronized the human and the cosmic. Yet the full scope of activity remains a mystery. What ceremonies were performed? How did the builders interpret their observations of the sun and sky? And what other knowledge might have been encoded in the structure, now lost to time? Standing today at the site, it is easy to sense both the enormity of the human effort involved and the subtlety of the knowledge it embodies. The posts, now reconstructed for clarity, hint at the careful observation and repeated measurement that must have been necessary. The circle invites us to consider the people who built it, not just as artisans or astronomers, but as thinkers, observers, and dreamers, striving to harmonize their lives with the rhythms of the universe. The ancient astronomical wheel of Goseck is more than a prehistoric monument. It is a testament to human curiosity and ingenuity. It reminds us that thousands of years ago, before written language or formal science, communities were capable of extraordinary observation, calculation, and architectural execution. It also reminds us that mysteries endure. We may never know exactly how knowledge was passed, precisely what ceremonies were performed, or the full range of understanding the builders possessed. As we continue our exploration of the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the Goseck Circle stands as a quiet sentinel of human observation and celestial wonder. It encourages us to look up, to measure, and to ponder. How much of the sky did our ancestors see and understand? What patterns did they discern? And what secrets of time and the cosmos remain hidden beneath the soil, waiting to be uncovered? The wheel of Goseck, like the cycles it once measured, turns silently through history, reminding us that the past is filled with observation, insight, and questions still unanswered, waiting for those who look closely enough to notice the alignment between human curiosity and the eternal sky. As the sun traces its path across the skies once observed from the Goseck Circle, our journey now carries us far eastward, across mountains and deserts, to a remote region where the sands preserve secrets both chilling and extraordinary. Here, in the windswept expanses of the Tarim Basin in modern-day Xinjiang, China, lie some of the most enigmatic and startling discoveries of the ancient world: the Tarim Basin mummies. The landscape is stark, an arid desert framed by the jagged peaks of the Tian Shan and Kunlun Mountains, where scorching summers and bitter winters dominate a seemingly inhospitable environment. Yet beneath this desolate surface, human history has been remarkably preserved. Buried within the shifting sands, archaeologists have uncovered a series of remarkably well-preserved mummies, dating as far back as 1800 BCE, whose features, clothing, and artifacts challenge conventional narratives of population, culture, and migration in ancient Eurasia. What immediately strikes observers about the Tarim mummies is their appearance. Many display distinctly Caucasoid facial features, long noses, deep-set eyes, and prominent cheekbones. Their hair, often reddish or blonde, remains intact after millennia, defying expectations of preservation in such an unforgiving environment. Even more astonishing is their attire: intricately woven woolen fabrics, tartan-like patterns, and leather boots perfectly suited for a cold, desert climate. These are not mere remnants of clothing. They are evidence of sophisticated textile work, design, and adaptation to local conditions. How did these people arrive in the Tarim Basin, thousands of kilometers from the traditional centers of European or Central Asian culture? Mainstream scholarship suggests that the mummies represent early waves of migration along Proto-Silk Road routes, connecting the steppes of Central Asia with China. Genetic analysis has revealed links to populations from Europe and Siberia, indicating a level of mobility, trade, and cultural interchange previously underestimated for this period. The mummy's presence suggests that the region was a crossroads of civilizations, where diverse peoples converged, traded, and adapted to extreme environmental conditions. Yet, even within this context, the preservation and sophistication of the finds remain extraordinary. The desert's arid climate and alkaline soil have created natural mummification conditions, yet these alone do not explain the meticulous preparation of the corpses. Many were wrapped in multiple layers of textiles, positioned carefully within wooden coffins or shallow graves, and accompanied by everyday objects, food, and tools. Such care suggests ritualistic practices, social hierarchies, and cultural values deeply embedded in life and death. Who were these people, and what beliefs guided their burial customs in a land so harsh that survival itself was a daily challenge? Speculative interpretations add further intrigue. Some have suggested that the mummies point to a previously unknown, highly mobile culture capable of extensive travel and trade across vast distances. Could these people have been early proto-traders, messengers, or settlers whose networks bridged Europe, Central Asia, and China centuries before the formal Silk Road? The evidence hints at a society with not only survival skills, but also complex social structures, capable of transporting goods, textiles, and even livestock across forbidding landscapes. Even more provocative is the suggestion that the Tarim mummies challenge long-held assumptions about the origins of the region's populations. How did people of European descent appear so far east at such an early date? What routes did they traverse, and how did they interact with local populations? Were they pioneers, migrants, or part of a larger cultural phenomenon now lost to history? The answers are incomplete. Yet the physical evidence, hair, clothing, and grave goods, speaks of connections, movement, and adaptation that continue to astonish. Archaeological studies reveal further layers of sophistication. The mummies' burial sites often include artifacts of considerable craftsmanship, woven baskets, wooden implements, and intricate textiles dyed with natural pigments. Even in isolation, these items demonstrate knowledge of weaving, tanning, and dyeing, pointing to a culture that valued artistry, functionality, and symbolic expression. In some cases, graves are aligned in patterns suggesting astronomical or ritual significance, echoing the broader human desire to connect earthly life with celestial order, a theme we have seen in the temples of Malta and the circles of Goseck. Yet mysteries abound. Why are these mummies so well preserved compared to other contemporary populations in the region? Why do their genetic and cultural signatures suggest origins far beyond the Tarim Basin, in regions separated by thousands of kilometers? And perhaps most intriguingly, what drove them to settle in such a harsh, remote desert environment rather than closer to the fertile river valleys of Central Asia? The evidence hints at migration, survival, and adaptation, but the motives, stories, and identities of these people remain largely inaccessible. Walking among the excavation sites, one cannot ignore the poignancy of the discoveries. The mummies are silent witnesses to lives once lived, men, women, and children who carved a place for themselves in a forbidding landscape, leaving behind traces that endure far beyond their mortality. Their presence challenges assumptions about the spread of human populations, the capacity for adaptation, and the breadth of cultural interaction in the 3rd millennium BCE. The Tarim Basin mummies, like the other discoveries we have explored, offer a window into the unexpected complexity of human history. They remind us that the past is neither simple nor linear. Civilizations, migrations, and cultures often defy easy categorization, leaving behind traces that puzzle as much as they enlighten. And yet, the silence of the desert, the preservation of hair, textiles, and wooden artifacts creates an intimacy with the past, a connection that feels immediate, even after thousands of years. As we continue our exploration of the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the Tarim Basin mummies stand as a testament to the resilience, ingenuity, and reach of human populations. They invite us to ask, how many other peoples have traveled, settled, and vanished in ways that challenge our understanding of history? What secrets remain hidden beneath sands, soil, and centuries, waiting to reshape our view of the human story? In the windswept basins of Xinjiang, the mummies endure, preserved by both climate and circumstance, whispering stories of movement, survival, and the uncharted paths of human curiosity. And as we peer into their ancient eyes, we are reminded that the past is never entirely lost. It is waiting, silent and enigmatic, for those who seek to uncover it. From the windswept deserts of the Tarim Basin, where mummies whisper of long-forgotten journeys and far-reaching migrations, our path now turns westward once more, to the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, a cradle of civilization where kings and conquerors shaped history with both ambition and ingenuity. It is here, among the ruins of great palaces and ziggurats, that we encounter one of Assyria's most enigmatic artistic and spiritual achievements, the winged figures of Assyria. These striking reliefs and sculptures, often referred to as lamassu or winged protective spirits, occupy the gateways of ancient Assyrian cities, most famously in Nineveh and Nimrud. Towering over observers at 5 meters or more, the figures combine human, animal, and divine features in ways that are both awe-inspiring and unsettling. A typical lamassu presents a human head, a muscular body of a lion or bull, and large outstretched wings that seem poised to lift the creature into flight. The meticulous detail of the carvings, the precise rendering of muscles, feathers, and facial expression demonstrates an artistic skill that rivals any culture of its time, Yet the symbolism embedded in these forms remains deeply mysterious. The lamassu served an obvious function: to guard entrances, protect cities, and embody the power and authority of the Assyrian kings who commissioned them. Inscriptions accompanying the figures invoke divine protection, warning enemies of both physical and spiritual retribution. They are both art and architecture, fusing aesthetic beauty with cultural symbolism, reinforcing the authority of rulers and the sacred order of the city. Walking through the gates, flanked by lamassu, visitors would have felt the dual force of artistry and intimidation, an overwhelming presence designed to impress and control. Yet as captivating as these reliefs are in their political and ritual context, they also pose deeper questions about the worldview and imagination of the Assyrians. How did they conceive of these hybrid beings, combining human intellect, animal strength, and divine mobility? What inspired such a specific and consistent visual language across centuries, appearing repeatedly at palaces, temples, and administrative centers? Scholars have noted the extraordinary precision of the wings, suggesting a knowledge of bird anatomy and flight dynamics, yet no evidence exists that the Assyrians applied this knowledge practically in mechanics or engineering. The wings may be symbolic, but their realism implies careful observation of nature, raising the question, how closely did these artisans study the living world to translate it into mythic form? Mainstream interpretations emphasize the religious and protective role of the lamassu. They are guardians, intermediaries between the human and divine, embodiments of supernatural power intended to shield cities from harm. Yet, when we examine the figures more closely, anomalies emerge. Certain depictions include unusual anatomical details, extra sets of limbs, faces that seem to gaze in multiple directions simultaneously, or patterns of wings and feathers that defy naturalistic explanation. Were these purely stylistic choices, or did they encode knowledge or beliefs now lost to time? Could they represent a symbolic logic, a language of power and cosmology that is no longer fully decipherable? Speculative theories add further intrigue. Some researchers have proposed that the winged figures may reflect Assyrian cosmology or beliefs about otherworldly beings capable of traversing multiple realms: sky, earth, and underworld. In this interpretation, the hybrid form is not just artistic flourish, but a philosophical statement. Human reasoning paired with animal strength and celestial mobility. The lamassu might have been conceived as intermediaries, messengers, or watchers, observing the human realm while maintaining a presence in divine or supernatural spheres. Could these carvings represent early attempts to depict multidimensional beings, or even the Assyrian understanding of spiritual hierarchies in a tangible visual form? Others have suggested more radical readings, noting the striking, almost mechanical precision of some reliefs. Could the lamassu reflect knowledge of geometry, proportion, and perspective beyond what is commonly attributed to the period? Their imposing scale and careful alignment with architectural spaces indicate not only artistic skill, but a sophisticated understanding of engineering, load-bearing, and visual impact. Each figure is designed to be both aesthetically perfect and structurally integral, blending art and architecture seamlessly. Might the lamassu have also functioned as visual technology, tools of perception and psychological influence as much as spiritual guardians? Even beyond technical questions, the lamassu challenge us to consider the symbolic imagination of an ancient culture. What did it mean to the Assyrians to merge human intelligence with animal power and celestial capability? How did these figures shape the daily experience of citizens, soldiers, and foreign visitors entering a city? Were they purely instruments of political control, or did they inspire genuine spiritual reflection, awe, and reverence? The answers remain elusive, buried in the stone and the centuries that have passed since the city gates they once guarded crumbled. Today, Many of the lamassu have been damaged, moved, or reconstructed in museums around the world, yet their presence retains an undeniable power. Standing before one, even in modern light, one senses the careful intention, the interplay of art and meaning, and the extraordinary creativity of a civilization that sought to embody the unseen forces of protection, power, and divinity. The figure's wings, frozen in stone, seem to invite contemplation, lifting the viewer's imagination to consider realms beyond the ordinary and the temporal. The winged figures of Assyria, like the Tarim mummies before them, serve as reminders that ancient civilizations were capable of profound vision, blending practical needs, spiritual insight, and imaginative power in ways that continue to challenge our understanding. They speak not only of kings and conquest, but of human aspiration, the desire to manifest unseen forces into tangible form, and the quest to connect the mortal with the divine. As we move deeper into the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the lamassu remain enduring enigmas. They ask us to consider the boundaries of knowledge, the intersections of art and spirituality, and the ways in which civilizations express the ineffable through stone. What other symbolic or technical knowledge did the Assyrians possess that we may never fully comprehend? How much of their worldview, encoded in hybrid forms of immense beauty and power, has been lost to the centuries? Standing before these monumental guardians, one cannot help but wonder, what secrets do the wings conceal, and what messages remain embedded in the stone, waiting for us to decipher the thoughts, beliefs, and imagination of a people who shaped history with both hands and vision? From the monumental guardians of Assyria, whose wings reach skyward in silent testimony to human imagination and spiritual aspiration, our journey now carries us eastward to the lush plains and river valleys of South Asia. Here, along the banks of the Indus River and its tributaries, lies one of the ancient world's most tantalizing enigmas: the Indus Valley Script, a written system created by a civilization whose sophistication continues to astonish archaeologists and historians alike. The Indus Valley Civilization, flourishing around 2600 to 1900 BCE, was a marvel of urban planning, engineering, and culture. Cities such as Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, and Dholavira feature meticulously planned streets, advanced drainage systems, and standardized brick construction, revealing a society deeply attuned to organization, hygiene, and civic life. Yet it is in the smaller, less immediately imposing artifacts that one encounters the civilization's most enduring mystery. Thousands of inscribed seals, tablets, and pottery fragments bearing symbols no one has been able to definitively read. The Indus script consists of a compact set of signs, some pictorial, some abstract, typically arranged in short sequences of 5 to 10 symbols. Carved onto small steatite seals, the inscriptions often accompany depictions of animals, humans, or mythic motifs. These objects were likely used in trade, administration, or ritual, hinting at a literate culture with complex social structures and systems of communication. Yet, despite decades of study, the meaning of these symbols remains elusive, resisting the efforts of linguists, cryptographers, and archaeologists. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the Indus script functioned as a form of proto-writing or administrative notation. It may have recorded names, commodities, or transactions, facilitating trade across the extensive Indus network, which spanned much of present-day Pakistan and northwest India. Some scholars propose that the symbols conveyed linguistic meaning, possibly related to Dravidian languages, while others argue that the script may have been semiotic, representing concepts rather than phonetic sounds. The challenge is compounded by the absence of bilingual inscriptions, such as the Rosetta Stone for Egyptian hieroglyphs, leaving researchers to decipher the symbols without a key. Yet even within the framework of practical administration, the script presents puzzles. Why do the inscriptions consistently appear in short sequences rather than long texts? Why do certain symbols recur frequently, while others appear only sporadically? And why do so many signs seem deliberately abstract or stylized, resisting straightforward pictorial interpretation? These questions suggest a level of sophistication that exceeds simple record-keeping, hinting at a culture that balanced function with symbolism, efficiency with aesthetic expression. Speculative interpretations deepen the intrigue. Some researchers suggest that the Indus script may have encoded religious, ritualistic, or even esoteric knowledge. Could these symbols have been used to record sacred knowledge, astronomical calculations, or social hierarchies in a manner accessible only to the initiated? The recurring motifs of animals, particularly the unicorn-like creature on many seals, invite questions about mythology, symbolic representation, and the interplay between art and language. Were these images functional markers of property and identity, or did they carry layers of symbolic meaning, known only to those who wielded literacy in the Indus world? Other scholars have noted patterns within the script that suggest a highly structured system, perhaps an early form of writing capable of recording language with more precision than previously thought for Neolithic or Bronze Age societies. Computational analyses reveal statistical regularities akin to linguistic structures, indicating that the symbols were not random but governed by rules and syntax. Could the Indus script represent a linguistic system lost to history, or a hybrid of writing and symbolic communication unique to the Indus Valley? Adding to the mystery is the script's abrupt disappearance. As the Indus Valley civilization declined, possibly due to climate change, shifting river courses, or socio-political disruption, the use of the script vanished. No direct descendants of the script are known, and its symbols did not evolve into later writing systems of South Asia. What knowledge, information, or cultural memory was lost when this form of communication disappeared? How much insight into the daily life, trade, beliefs, and governance of the Indus people is locked away in symbols that remain unreadable? The physicality of the inscriptions themselves also speaks to a deliberate and skilled craftsmanship. Each seal is carved with care, the lines sharp, the shapes precise, often small enough to be held in the hand, yet designed to convey meaning across social and geographic boundaries. The combination of practicality and artistry suggests a society that valued communication as both functional and symbolic. But without translation, the full richness of these messages remains inaccessible, tantalizingly close yet frustratingly beyond our grasp. Standing before an Indus Valley seal today, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of connection across time. The small, incised symbols are the fingerprints of a civilization that thrived 5 millennia ago, reflecting intellect, artistry, and organization. Yet their meaning, purpose, and significance remain shrouded, a reminder that human history is not fully revealed by architecture, urban planning, or monumental structures alone. Some truths are encoded in subtler forms, awaiting discovery or understanding. The Indus Valley script, like the Lamassu of Assyria or the Tarim mummies, challenges assumptions about ancient human capabilities. It invites us to ponder the sophistication of civilizations lost to time, the limits of modern interpretation, and the fragments of knowledge buried beneath centuries of earth, sand, and silence. What secrets of governance, religion, and daily life were recorded in these symbols, and how much of the civilization's story remains hidden in undeciphered writing? As we continue our exploration of the world's most breathtaking and mysterious archaeological discoveries, the Indus script stands as both a key and a mystery, a silent testimony to human ingenuity, a tantalizing puzzle, and an invitation to imagine the voices, knowledge, and lives of those who inscribed the earliest messages in South Asia's river valleys. In every curve, line, and abstract mark lies the echo of a civilization that continues to speak across millennia, urging us to listen, to study, and to wonder what might still be revealed. From the undeciphered symbols of the Indus Valley, where the written word remains tantalizingly out of reach, our journey now carries us across continents and oceans to the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes in South America. Here, perched nearly 2,430 meters above sea level, lies a city that has captivated explorers, historians, and travelers for nearly a century, Machu Picchu, the famed lost city of the Incas. Yet beyond its breathtaking terraces and stone architecture, Machu Picchu conceals questions about its true purpose, questions that continue to spark debate and fascination among scholars today. From a distance, the site seems almost impossibly suspended between steep mountains and the winding Urubamba River far below. Clouds drift lazily through deep valleys, revealing jagged peaks and verdant slopes that seem to cradle the city in a natural fortress. The terraces, carefully cut into the mountainside, are more than functional agricultural plots. They create a rhythm of stone and greenery that blends human ingenuity with the surrounding landscape. Intricate stairways, temples, plazas, and finely cut stone walls reflect a precision and sophistication that remain awe-inspiring even by modern engineering standards. Mainstream scholarship generally identifies Machu Picchu as a royal estate or retreat for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, constructed around 1450 CE. Its position high in the Andes would have offered strategic advantages, protection from rival factions, and a commanding view of the surrounding lands. Yet even within this explanation, many elements of the site resist simple interpretation. Certain buildings, such as the Intihuatana stone, the Temple of the Sun, and the Room of the Three Windows, are aligned with solstices, celestial events, and natural landmarks, suggesting that Machu Picchu functioned as more than a residential retreat. Could it have served as an observatory, a ritual center, or a place where the terrestrial and the celestial intersected in sacred ways? The precision of the stonework is remarkable. Massive blocks of granite, some weighing several tons, were cut and fitted without mortar, yet aligned so perfectly that even a thin blade cannot slide between them. How did the builders achieve such precision in a remote mountain environment? Theories range from advanced knowledge of leverage, tools, and measurement, to the use of stone-on-stone polishing techniques that remain difficult to replicate today. The extraordinary craftsmanship hints at a civilization that combined practical engineering with spiritual or symbolic intention. Speculative interpretations invite us to consider a broader purpose for Machu Picchu. Some researchers propose that the city was a sacred pilgrimage site, a place where the Inca elite performed ceremonies in alignment with the sun, stars, and sacred mountains, which were themselves considered deities. The Intihuatana, often called the hitching post of the sun, may have been a ritual stone used to anchor the sun during solstices, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and the cycles of nature. Could the terraces, temples, and plazas have been organized to reflect cosmological principles, linking human activity to the rhythms of the cosmos? Other scholars point to Machu Picchu's agricultural terraces, irrigation systems, and water channels as evidence of experimentation with crop cultivation in extreme environments. Here, at nearly 2,500 meters above sea level, the Inca may have tested crops, soils, and irrigation techniques that were crucial for feeding larger populations elsewhere in the empire. Could Machu Picchu have functioned as a combination of royal estate, agricultural laboratory, and sacred observatory, a convergence of governance, innovation, and spirituality in one site? Further mysteries emerge when considering the city's location. Hidden in a narrow ridge between two peaks, Machu Picchu remained largely unknown to the outside world until Hiram Bingham's 1911 expedition. Was this seclusion intentional, designed to protect sacred knowledge, preserve rituals from outsiders, or serve as a private retreat for the Inca elite? The very difficulty of access, steep trails, sheer cliffs, and dense forests, adds to the sense that the city was meant to exist apart from ordinary life, a threshold between the everyday and the divine. Some fringe theories suggest that Machu Picchu may have functioned as a repository of spiritual energy, a center for ceremonies that aligned with geomagnetic or cosmic forces, or even as a site of knowledge transfer between human and celestial spheres. While these ideas remain speculative, the repeated alignment of structures with natural and astronomical phenomena implies intentionality, inviting us to consider the depth of Inca understanding and the subtlety of their architectural vision. Archaeological evidence also points to a society attuned to both ritual and practicality. Residences, plazas, and temples coexist with sophisticated drainage systems, grain storage, and water channels, revealing a balance between spiritual, administrative, and subsistence needs. The city embodies a harmony between human activity and the surrounding landscape, suggesting that the builders saw themselves as participants in a larger cosmic and ecological order. Today, Machu Picchu continues to captivate the imagination. Tourists and researchers alike are drawn to the site not only for its beauty, but for the questions it raises. Why was such a remarkable city built in such an inaccessible location? What ceremonies took place in its temples and plazas? How much knowledge of astronomy, agriculture, and engineering was embedded in its stones, terraces, and channels? And perhaps most tantalizingly, what remains hidden beneath the surface, or in the alignment of stones and sky, waiting for us to decipher its full significance? Machu Picchu, like the Indus Valley script, the Lamassu of Assyria, and the Tarim mummies, is a reminder that human history is filled with intention, ingenuity, and mystery. Every terrace, every precisely fitted stone, and every solar alignment challenges our assumptions about the capabilities and motivations of ancient civilizations. It is both a monument to human achievement and an invitation to wonder. As the morning mist lifts from the Andean peaks, revealing the full extent of the city's terraces, temples, and pathways, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of awe. Machu Picchu remains a puzzle, a place where history, spirituality, and ingenuity converge. And as we gaze across its stone walls and sunlit plazas, we are left to ask, what was the true purpose of this extraordinary city? How much of its meaning remains hidden, waiting for those willing to look beyond the visible, to consider the interplay of nature, astronomy, and human aspiration? Machu Picchu endures, suspended in time and space, a testament to the vision of a civilization whose ingenuity and understanding continue to resonate, inviting us to ponder not only what they built, but why, and what truths may still be waiting to be revealed among the stones and the clouds. From the mist-shrouded peaks of Machu Picchu, where terraces and temples hint at celestial observation, our journey now carries us back to the cradle of civilization, to the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, where the earliest urban societies flourished along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, amidst the ruins of Ur, Uruk, and Nippur, archaeologists have uncovered traces of a remarkable endeavor: the Sumerian star catalogs, among the earliest records of humanity's attempt to chart the heavens. The Sumerians, flourishing around 3,100 to 2000 BCE, were pioneers of writing, administration, and mathematics. They created the world's first cuneiform script, built monumental ziggurats, and organized complex city-states that balanced religion, trade, and governance. Yet, alongside their terrestrial achievements, they turned their gaze skyward, recording the stars, planets, and celestial phenomena with extraordinary attention to detail. Clay tablets etched with cuneiform inscriptions reveal constellations, planetary positions, and the motions of celestial bodies with precision that continues to astound modern astronomers. These star catalogs are not merely lists of points of light in the sky. They represent systematic observation over generations. Some tablets identify specific constellations. Others track the rising and setting of planets, while yet others record lunar cycles and eclipses. In essence, the Sumerians were creating a celestial calendar, a tool to understand time, predict seasonal changes, and align religious and agricultural activities with the movements of the heavens. Each mark on the clay is evidence of careful attention, calculation, and a desire to impose order upon the vast, mysterious sky. Mainstream scholarship interprets the Sumerian catalogs as both practical and symbolic. They facilitated agriculture by predicting seasonal shifts, guided religious rituals timed with celestial events, and codified knowledge that reinforced the authority of priests and rulers. Yet, even within this utilitarian framework, the catalogs display a sophistication that raises questions. How did early astronomers, without telescopes or modern instruments, achieve such accuracy in recording planetary motion? How did they conceptualize the heavens in ways that allowed consistent tracking across decades and even centuries? The tablets themselves are fascinating objects. Made from clay, inscribed while the material was still soft, and then baked or dried, they preserve knowledge that spans millennia. Some are small, handheld objects with delicate impressions of stars and symbols. Others are large, detailed charts covering months or years of observations. The sheer volume and complexity suggest a culture that valued precise recording, careful transmission of knowledge, and a systematic approach to understanding natural phenomena. It is an early expression of a human desire to impose logic upon the cosmos. Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Some researchers have suggested that the Sumerian star catalogs may have contained knowledge beyond practical astronomy. Could they have encoded mythological or symbolic narratives, linking constellations with gods, kings, and cosmic forces? In Sumerian belief, the heavens were inhabited and governed by divine entities whose movements influenced human affairs. Were the star catalogs a way of reading messages from the gods, an early form of celestial divination encoded in stone and clay? The blending of observation and spirituality raises the possibility that these records were not only scientific, but also deeply metaphysical. Other scholars have noted anomalies that challenge simple explanations. Certain alignments recorded in the tablets appear to reference celestial phenomena with cycles longer than a human lifetime, such as planetary conjunctions or precessional movements. How could Sumerian observers track such events with the tools available at the time? Could there have been knowledge, perhaps passed down orally or through long-term observation, that allowed them to perceive patterns spanning decades or even centuries? And if so, what methods or insights have been lost with the fall of the Sumerian civilization? Some fringe theories take the speculation further, suggesting that the Sumerians may have had contact with unknown sources of astronomical knowledge, perhaps through cultural diffusion or even more enigmatic means. While these ideas remain controversial and unproven, the complexity of the star catalogs continues to challenge conventional narratives about early human capabilities. Whether through extraordinary observation, mathematical ingenuity, or cultural transmission, the Sumerians achieved an understanding of the heavens that resonates across time. Beyond the tablets themselves, the integration of astronomical observation into Sumerian life reflects a broader worldview. Ziggurats, the towering stepped temples, are thought to have been aligned with celestial features, serving as both religious centers and observatories. Festivals, Agricultural cycles and civic events were timed to coincide with the movements of stars and planets. In this way, the heavens were not abstract or distant. They were woven into the very fabric of daily life, governing human activity and shaping societal structure. Standing before a Sumerian tablet today, one can almost feel the patience and dedication of the astronomers who inscribed each mark. They were not merely recording what they saw, they were interpreting, calculating, and codifying a cosmic order that humans could observe, measure, and anticipate. In these small clay tablets, one glimpses a civilization reaching beyond its earthly boundaries, striving to understand the immensity of time and space, and leaving behind traces of knowledge that still intrigue and inspire. The Sumerian star catalogs, like Machu Picchu, the Indus Valley script, and the winged figures of Assyria, remind us that ancient civilizations were capable of profound insight, observation, and imagination. They encourage us to ask, how much of their knowledge has been lost, obscured, or misinterpreted? What secrets of the cosmos did they perceive that we may still be uncovering? And how does this early astronomical awareness connect with humanity's ongoing quest to understand the universe? As we trace the lines etched into clay thousands of years ago, we are invited to contemplate not only the stars themselves, but the minds that observed them with such meticulous care. The Sumerian catalogs endure as both records of the past and invitations to wonder. They whisper across millennia, urging us to look upward, to measure, and to ponder the infinite mysteries of the sky and the ingenuity of the humans who first sought to chart it. From the meticulous observations of the Sumerians, who charted the heavens on clay tablets millennia ago, our journey now carries us across the Americas to a dense and verdant landscape where the origins of writing take a radically different form. In the lowlands of Veracruz, Mexico, archaeologists uncovered a small yet extraordinary artifact that may rewrite our understanding of the beginnings of written communication in the Americas: the Cascajal Block. At first glance, it is an unassuming piece of serpentine stone, roughly rectangular and palm-sized, with smooth, worn edges that suggest both age and careful handling. Across its surface, a series of 62 incised symbols, abstract shapes, lines, and motifs, form patterns that hint at an underlying system of communication. Unlike the pictographs of later Mesoamerican civilizations, these symbols are minimalist yet deliberate, a vocabulary that seems to straddle the line between art and writing. Every groove, every curve, appears intentional, the product of precise and patient effort. The Cascajal Block is believed to date to approximately 900 BCE, placing it in the early period of the Olmec civilization, often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica. The Olmecs are renowned for their monumental stone heads, sophisticated jade carvings, and complex ceremonial centers such as San Lorenzo and La Venta. Yet for all their artistic and engineering achievements, evidence of their written communication has been scarce, making the Cascajal Block one of the few candidates for an authentic Olmec script. Its discovery has sparked intense debate among scholars who are divided over its meaning, purpose, and authenticity. Mainstream interpretations propose that the block represents a proto-writing system, a transitional form between symbolic imagery and full script. If true, it suggests that the Olmecs were recording names, events, or ritual knowledge in a formalized system, predating other known Mesoamerican scripts such as the Maya by nearly a millennium. The block challenges the notion that complex writing systems emerged solely in the highlands of Mesoamerica, offering tantalizing evidence that the lowland Olmecs may have been innovators in symbolic communication. The symbols themselves are enigmatic. Some appear geometric, lines, crosses, and rectangles, while others resemble stylized plants, animals, or natural motifs. Their repetition and structured arrangement imply a deliberate order rather than random decoration, yet no two sequences appear identical. Scholars have attempted to link these signs to later Mesoamerican glyphs, but the connections remain speculative. Is this an early attempt to codify language? A mnemonic device for ritual knowledge? Or perhaps a record of trade, lineage, or calendrical information? The truth remains just out of reach. The context of the discovery adds to its intrigue. The block was found amidst a construction of alluvial deposits and artifacts associated with early Olmec settlements, including pottery, jade, and ceremonial objects. Its placement suggests that it was valued, carefully preserved, or possibly deposited as part of a ritual act. The careful incisions and repeated patterns imply not only skill, but also intent, an understanding that these marks would communicate something, whether to contemporaries or to future generations. Speculative theories push the boundaries further. Some researchers propose that the block may encode mythological or religious narratives, mapping cosmology, deities, or ceremonial sequences in a symbolic language lost to time. Others wonder whether the Cascajal symbols could represent the first steps toward a fully phonetic writing system in the Americas, a precursor to the intricate glyphs developed by the Maya and Zapotec centuries later. Could the Olmecs have created a script that bridged the symbolic and the linguistic, blending artistry, ritual, and communication in a form never seen before? Even the technical execution of the block fascinates. The stone's surface was carefully prepared, and the incisions are remarkably consistent in depth and width, suggesting specialized tools and considerable skill. Each symbol is precisely executed, neither hurried nor casual, as if the creator understood the gravity of recording knowledge in a tangible medium. How did early Olmec artisans develop such precision? What tools, techniques, and knowledge underpinned this creation, and what cultural significance did it hold? Some skeptics question the authenticity or interpretive framework of the Cascajal Block, noting that the Olmec script, if it existed, remains poorly attested. Yet, the more it is studied, the more its intentionality becomes evident. The block is not merely decoration, it is a communication device, a deliberate expression of meaning whose full content remains undeciphered. Like the Indus Valley script or the Sumerian star catalogs, it hints at a civilization capable of sophisticated abstraction and systematic thought, leaving behind traces that modern observers can glimpse but not fully comprehend. Beyond its scholarly implications, the block invites reflection on the nature of knowledge and preservation. What stories, rituals, or instructions were encoded within these symbols? How many other artifacts may have existed, now lost to erosion, decay, or human activity? And what might the Cascajal Block reveal about the Olmec's intellectual and spiritual world, one where artistry, ritual, and communication converged in ways we are only beginning to imagine? As one studies the incisions, tracing the lines with a finger or an eye, it is easy to feel a connection across millennia. A person, long gone, pressed their tools into stone, leaving a record of thought, culture, and intention that endures to this day. The block embodies both the ingenuity and the mystery of the Olmec civilization, a testament to human curiosity and creativity that resonates even in the modern era. The Cascajal Block, like the Sumerian star catalogs, Machu Picchu, and the Indus Valley script, reminds us that the human desire to communicate, record, and understand transcends time and geography. It challenges us to consider the sophistication of early civilizations and the fragments of knowledge that remain locked away in stone, clay, or landscape. What messages were the Olmecs attempting to preserve? How much of their symbolic, religious, or practical knowledge remains hidden? And how might these early attempts at writing change our understanding of the history of literacy in the Americas. In the quiet of Veracruz, the Cascajal Block sits as a silent witness to a civilization that sought to make meaning tangible, leaving traces that continue to inspire awe and curiosity. It urges us to look closer, to study, and to wonder. How much of human history still lies waiting, etched in stone and waiting to be understood? From the intricate symbols etched into the Cascajal Block, a testament to the Olmec's early attempt at communication, our journey now carries us across the Mediterranean to the rugged landscapes of Sardinia. Here, scattered across plains and hills, stand enigmatic stone figures that have puzzled scholars, travelers, and locals alike for centuries. The Sardinian giant statues, known locally as Giganti di Monte Prama. These towering sculptures, some reaching over 2 meters in height, evoke both awe and curiosity, raising questions about the people who carved them and the purpose they served. The statues are striking in their form and expression. Carved from massive blocks of local sandstone, they depict warriors, archers, and boxers with elongated torsos, square faces, and stylized features. Each figure is meticulously detailed. Round shields, oval helmets, and weapons etched into the stone hint at martial prowess, while abstract geometrical patterns on the bodies suggest symbolic or ritual significance. The sheer scale and craftsmanship are remarkable, particularly given that they date back to roughly 900 to 800 BCE, a period often overshadowed in Mediterranean archaeology by the civilizations of Greece and Phoenicia. Discovered in fragments during the late 20th century, the statues were painstakingly reconstructed, revealing rows of figures that once formed monumental assemblages. Their arrangement, often in clusters or alignments, implies deliberate placement within sacred or communal spaces. Yet the original context is only partially understood. Were they guardians of a burial site, markers of a sacred landscape, or representations of revered ancestors or deities? The absence of contemporary written records leaves these questions open, and each fragment recovered from the soil becomes a tantalizing clue to a lost world. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the statues were created by the Nuragic civilization, a Bronze Age society known for its distinctive stone towers, or Nuragi, which dot the Sardinian landscape. The Nuragic people were skilled in metallurgy, ceramics, and stone construction, yet little is known about their religious or artistic conventions. The Monte Prama figures, with their sophisticated iconography, indicate a society capable of abstract thought, symbolic expression, and large-scale coordinated effort. Could these figures reflect the Nuragic worldview, where power, spirituality, and communal identity intersected in stone? The statues' stylistic choices raise intriguing questions. The elongated proportions, squared heads, and minimalist facial features are unlike contemporary Greek or Etruscan sculpture, suggesting a unique aesthetic vision. Some scholars propose that the abstraction may have conveyed symbolic meaning rather than literal likeness, embodying ideals of strength, vigilance, or divinity. Others wonder if the figures represent real individuals, heroes, chieftains, or legendary warriors, whose memory was immortalized in stone for posterity. How much of the statue's design is aesthetic, and how much encodes cultural, spiritual, or political significance? Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Some researchers suggest that the statues served as protective talismans, watching over the landscapes, communities, or sacred sites where they stood. Others propose astronomical or calendrical functions, noting alignments with the sun, moon, or prominent mountains. Could these monumental figures have been positioned to mark solstices, equinoxes, or other celestial events, linking the Nuragic people's spiritual practices to the rhythms of the cosmos? The possibility that these stone giants functioned both as cultural symbols and as instruments of astronomical observation invites further contemplation. Even the technical execution of the statues is remarkable. Each figure was carved from a single block of sandstone using bronze or stone tools, shaped with precision and an eye for detail that allowed for both stylization and recognizable human form. The logistics of quarrying, transporting, and erecting such massive stones in a pre-industrial society suggest a complex social organization capable of planning, coordination, and sustained effort. What techniques did the Nuragic people employ to move these blocks across rugged terrain? How many hands, over how many seasons, contributed to this monumental labor? Each statue stands not only as an artistic achievement, but as evidence of societal sophistication. The location of the statues adds another layer to their intrigue. Many were discovered near burial sites, suggesting a funerary or commemorative function, yet the precise relationship between the figures and the graves remains uncertain. Were they intended to honor the dead, ward off malevolent spirits, or act as intermediaries between the living and the divine? The recurring motifs of shields, weapons, and abstract symbols indicate a symbolic system whose language we have not fully deciphered. Each unanswered question magnifies the mystery, hinting at knowledge and cultural practices that are now lost to time. Some fringe theories speculate that the giants may represent beings of extraordinary stature, echoing myths of prehistoric giants or hybrid figures found in folklore. While such ideas remain outside mainstream scholarship, the statues' scale and imposing presence have naturally inspired legends and local lore. Perhaps their very monumentality was intended to evoke awe, fear, or reverence, reinforcing social hierarchies, spiritual beliefs, or communal memory. Standing before a reconstructed Monte Prama statue today, one can sense the careful observation, patience, and intent embedded in every line, every contour, every etched weapon. The figures gaze outward, silent witnesses to centuries of change, weathering, and human curiosity. They remind us that history is not only written in text, but sculpted in stone, carved with purpose, and imbued with meaning that transcends our immediate understanding. The Sardinian giant statues, like the Cascajal Block, the Sumerian star catalogs, and Machu Picchu, invite reflection on the ingenuity, beliefs, and social organization of ancient civilizations. They ask us to consider the knowledge, symbolism, and spiritual frameworks of a people long vanished from the historical record. How much of their meaning remains encoded in posture, proportion, and alignment? How many secrets are buried beneath the soil, waiting for patient hands and keen eyes to uncover them? As we gaze upon these silent sentinels, towering over Sardinia's rolling hills and ancient burial grounds, we are left with questions rather than answers. The Monte Prama giants endure as a testament to human creativity, ambition, and the desire to communicate across generations. And they whisper to us, urging contemplation of what else may lie hidden in stone, waiting to reveal the story of a civilization whose echoes continue to resonate millennia later. From the monumental stone figures of Sardinia, silent witnesses to a lost civilization, our journey now returns to the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, where one of the earliest urban societies inscribed the story of kings, gods, and the passage of time on clay tablets. Here, amidst the ruins of ancient Sumer, lies a document that has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and scholars for over a century: the Sumerian King List. This artifact is more than a simple record. It is a window into a worldview where history, mythology, and political authority intertwine in ways that continue to challenge our understanding. The King List is, at first glance, an unassuming set of cuneiform inscriptions, etched into clay with careful strokes, preserved across multiple copies and fragments. Yet, within its lines lies a narrative both remarkable and perplexing. It enumerates kings who ruled the cities of Sumer: Uruk, Ur, Kish, and others, detailing reigns that span thousands of years. Some kings are said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years. others for mere decades, creating a timeline that straddles the boundary between historical record and mythological imagination. The physicality of the tablets, with their cuneiform wedges pressed into baked clay, conveys a sense of permanence and authority, as if the Sumerians sought to anchor their society's legacy in enduring stone. Scholars generally interpret the king list as an attempt to legitimize political power, linking rulers to divine authority. By tracing kingship from the earliest quasi-mythical figures to historical rulers, the text establishes continuity and cosmic order. Cities are presented as successive centers of power, with kingship lowered from heaven to govern humanity. Yet, despite this conventional explanation, the king list raises as many questions as it answers. Why do the reigns of early kings stretch to implausible lengths? How were these figures remembered, and what was their relationship to the gods and to ordinary Sumerians? The extraordinary longevity assigned to the earliest rulers has inspired speculation for centuries. Some suggest these numbers reflect symbolic cosmologies, encoding cycles of time, celestial observations, or ritual numerology. Others propose that they represent the aggregation of oral traditions, where the deeds of many rulers were condensed into singular, legendary figures. Could the Sumerians have been recording a memory of an age long before written history, preserved through myth and memory, yet encoded in the format of a king list? The tablets themselves are as enigmatic as their content. Found across multiple sites, often in fragments, they vary in detail and style. Some copies are more detailed, including additional commentary on dynasties, city-states, or kings' achievements. Others are concise, listing names and reign lengths without elaboration. The discrepancies suggest a long process of compilation, editing, and transmission, hinting at evolving perceptions of history, politics, and divine favor. How did scribes reconcile oral tradition, political propaganda, and astronomical or ritual knowledge in producing such records? Certain entries in the king list seem to align with known historical rulers, particularly in later dynasties, offering a bridge between myth and verifiable history. Early kings like Alulim and Enmenlu-Ana, with reigns spanning tens of thousands of years, contrast sharply with later rulers whose lengths of reign correspond more plausibly to human lifespans. This juxtaposition invites reflection on how the Sumerians understood time, kingship, and memory. Were these exaggerated lifespans metaphors for wisdom, divine favor, or cosmic significance? Or might they preserve traces of a distant past, interpreted through ritualized storytelling? Speculative theories have extended the mystery even further. Some researchers suggest the king list may encode knowledge of cataclysmic events, lost civilizations, or periods of astronomical observation, masked within the language of kingship and mythology. Others posit connections to broader Mesopotamian cosmologies, where time and governance are intertwined with the stars, the seasons, and divine decree. Could the ancient Sumerians have embedded observations of natural phenomena, celestial cycles, or societal upheavals within what appears to be a political document? The creation of the king list also reflects the sophisticated bureaucratic and intellectual culture of Sumer. Compiling such a record required meticulous record-keeping, access to archives, and the ability to synthesize information across generations. It speaks to a society that valued memory, authority, and continuity, where the past was curated not only as a record, but as a tool to shape the present. Each tablet represents the labor of scribes who sought to preserve a civilization's identity and worldview in clay, even as the centuries and millennia marched on. Standing before a Sumerian tablet today, one can imagine the hands that inscribed the names, the intent behind each wedge-shaped mark. The king list is at once a historical artifact, a work of literature, and a philosophical reflection on human existence, divine authority, and the impermanence of life. It challenges modern observers to consider how early civilizations interpreted their past, how myth and history coexist, and how societies impose meaning on the passage of time. The Sumerian king list, like the Sardinian giant statues, the Cascajal Block, and Machu Picchu, reminds us that humanity has long sought to record, interpret, and memorialize its experience. It asks us to consider how much of our understanding of the past is shaped by the myths we inherit, the records we preserve, and the frameworks we impose on ancient knowledge. How many stories, events, or insights lie hidden in plain sight, awaiting discovery or reinterpretation? As the light of the modern era illuminates these ancient tablets, the king list endures as a testament to human imagination, ambition, and the desire to understand one's place in the cosmos. It invites us to peer across millennia, to question the boundary between history and myth, and to wonder what truths remain concealed within the clay, waiting for those willing to study, to think, and to ponder the depths of human history. From the meticulously inscribed clay tablets of Sumer, where kings and gods were immortalized in cuneiform, our journey now carries us back across the Mediterranean to the island of Malta, where subterranean chambers whisper secrets of a civilization long vanished. Beneath the town of Paola lies a remarkable underground complex, carved entirely from soft limestone, the hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni. While its walls, passageways, and burial chambers captivate archaeologists and visitors alike, it is the site's extraordinary acoustic properties that have added a layer of mystery unparalleled in the ancient world. The hypogeum is an architectural marvel, dating back to approximately 4000 to 2500 BCE, predating even the Egyptian pyramids in construction. Visitors descend through narrow staircases into a labyrinth of chambers, niches, and interlocking halls, their ceilings and walls meticulously hewn from the living rock. The space is cool and dimly lit, echoing with the faintest sound, as if the stone itself were alive with memory. Within these chambers, the interplay of shape, depth, and stone creates acoustic phenomena that astonish modern engineers and sound scientists alike. A single human voice can resonate across the central chamber, magnifying and lingering for several seconds. Certain frequencies, around 110 to 120 Hz, are amplified with striking clarity, enveloping listeners in a tangible vibrational presence. Archaeologists have long debated the purpose of the hypogeum. Mainstream interpretations identify it as a necropolis, a sacred burial site for the prehistoric Maltese, complete with niches for individual interments and communal ossuaries. Yet, the acoustic properties suggest the site served more than a funerary function. Could the resonance have played a role in rituals, ceremonies, or initiation practices? Some researchers propose that chanting, drumming, or singing within the chambers may have induced trance-like states, heightening spiritual or communal experiences. The fact that certain frequencies are naturally amplified hints at a sophisticated understanding of sound far beyond what might be expected from a Neolithic society. The precision of the hypogeum's construction fuels speculation. The chambers are carved with geometric accuracy, the ceilings arched, the walls tapered, creating both structural stability and optimal resonance. The central chamber, known as the Oracle Room, exhibits particularly striking acoustic behavior. A whispered voice can reverberate across the hall, seemingly omnipresent, while higher frequencies are dampened. Was this an intentional design, aimed at enhancing ritualistic practices or communication across spaces? Or was it a serendipitous byproduct of architectural skill and natural rock formations? The answer remains elusive, leaving room for wonder and debate. The carvings and artwork within the hypogeum further deepen the mystery. Red ochre markings, spirals, and abstract motifs adorn some walls, hinting at symbolic, ritualistic, or perhaps spiritual meanings. Could these visual elements, combined with the acoustics, have formed a multisensory environment designed to elevate human consciousness? Some researchers suggest that the Neolithic Maltese may have intuitively understood how sound interacts with space, using the hypogeum as a tool for communal ceremonies, spiritual journeys, or communication with the unseen. Experimental studies in modern times have confirmed that specific vocalizations, deep chants, resonant tones, or rhythmic drumming interact with the hypogeum's architecture in highly controlled ways. Researchers have recorded dramatic amplification, standing waves, and complex interference patterns within certain chambers, as if the stone itself had been tuned to respond to human voice. How did prehistoric builders discover these properties? Was it through trial and error, through careful observation over generations, or through a knowledge system now lost to time? Some speculative theories take the acoustic mystery even further. A few propose that the hypogeum functioned as a center for sound-based healing, ritual meditation, or even early experimentation with vibrational energy. Others suggest that its sonic design may have been linked to celestial cycles, where the resonance corresponds with solar or lunar alignments, creating a cosmic harmony between earth, stone, and sky. While these ideas cannot be verified, the possibility that prehistoric Maltese architects conceived of their spaces in such an integrated, multidimensional way is tantalizing. The very act of descending into the hypogeum reinforces the sense of wonder. Narrow staircases funnel visitors into enclosed chambers, where the weight of the stone above and the stillness of the subterranean world create an almost sacred atmosphere. In this quiet, every sound, the echo of footsteps, a whispered name, or the vibration of the air, becomes amplified, intimate, and monumental at once. The ancient builders may have intended this immersive experience, shaping human perception with stone and sound as surely as they shaped it with light and space. Standing in the oracle room today, one cannot help but imagine the rituals and ceremonies that may have taken place millennia ago. Perhaps priests, shamans, or community elders chanted to communicate with ancestors or gods, using the resonant chambers to magnify voice and presence. Perhaps communal gatherings, initiations, or meditative practices were guided by the natural acoustics, creating experiences that blurred the boundaries between human and divine, living and dead, sound and space. The hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni, like the Sumerian king list, the Sardinian giant statues, and Machu Picchu, reminds us that ancient civilizations were not only builders and recorders of history, but also experimenters in perception, consciousness, and sensory experience. It challenges us to consider how much knowledge of sound, vibration, and architectural harmony has been lost over the millennia. What rituals, spiritual insights, or communal experiences remain hidden in the interplay of stone and air? As one moves through the labyrinthine corridors, feeling the reverberations linger and fade, it becomes clear that the hypogeum is more than a burial site. It is a testament to human ingenuity, intuition, and the desire to manipulate and harmonize with the natural world. Its echoes carry both sound and mystery, inviting us to listen, to imagine, and to wonder what other secrets lie beneath the surface, waiting for those patient enough to descend into the shadows of prehistory. From the resonant chambers of Malta, where the Neolithic builders of the hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni crafted spaces that manipulated sound itself, our journey now carries us thousands of miles eastward to the fertile plains of Sichuan, China. Here, beneath layers of loess and soil, archaeologists uncovered a discovery that would challenge everything known about early Chinese civilization: the Sanxingdui Masks, monumental bronze faces that seem to emerge from a world both familiar and alien. The masks are immediately striking. Some measure nearly a meter across. Their exaggerated features, wide, staring eyes, protruding ears, high-arching noses, convey a presence that is both human and otherworldly. The bronze has aged to a green patina, mottled and textured with time, yet the craftsmanship remains astonishingly precise. Each face is unique, yet they share a common aesthetic. The scale, the expression, and the abstraction suggest a culture capable of both technical mastery and symbolic sophistication. When viewed in groups, the masks seem to gaze out from a forgotten past, silent sentinels from a civilization whose purpose and meaning remain tantalizingly obscure. The Sanxingdui site, first excavated in the 1980s, revealed not only masks, but also enormous bronze trees, ritual vessels, and intricately crafted figures. Radiocarbon dating places the culture around 1200 to 1000 BCE, contemporary with the late Shang dynasty, yet the art and symbolism of Sanxingdui diverge sharply from Shang conventions. There is little continuity between these bronze works and those of their eastern neighbors, suggesting that Sanxingdui represents a distinct, advanced civilization that developed independently, then seemingly vanished without a trace. Mainstream archaeological interpretation frames the masks as ceremonial objects, possibly used in ancestor worship or ritual performances. The exaggerated facial features may have been intended to evoke deities, spirits, or mythological beings, creating an atmosphere of awe and reverence during sacred ceremonies. Their sheer scale and craftsmanship imply not only artistic skill, but also complex social organization, a community capable of mobilizing labor, resources, and technological knowledge to realize monumental visions in bronze. Yet, for all we know, the exact role these masks played in daily life, ritual, or governance remains an enigma. The design of the masks raises profound questions. Their wide, staring eyes suggest perception beyond the ordinary, perhaps symbolizing divine sight or spiritual vigilance. The protruding ears, high foreheads, and exaggerated facial lines may encode symbolic meanings lost to time relating to authority, ritual power, or cosmology. Unlike the naturalistic depictions familiar in many other Bronze Age societies, the abstraction of Sanxingdui's masks challenges modern expectations, hinting at a culture with a worldview radically different from our own. What truths, stories, or spiritual insights did these faces embody? The context of the mask's discovery adds to the mystery. Many were found deliberately buried in pits, often broken or dismantled, suggesting ritual deposition. Was this destruction a ceremonial act, perhaps marking the end of a dynasty, a religious cycle, or a moment of social upheaval? Or could it represent a deliberate attempt to hide or preserve these sacred objects for future generations? The intentionality of their burial mirrors practices seen in other ancient civilizations, yet the scale, precision, and timing of the deposits remain puzzling. Speculative interpretations venture further. Some researchers propose that the masks represent mythological beings, intermediaries between humans and the divine, or even figures from an origin myth unique to the Sanxingdui culture. Others consider the possibility that these objects encoded historical events, astronomical observations, or social hierarchies in a visual language we have yet to decipher. Could the wide eyes and stylized expressions symbolize not only spiritual insight, but also a profound understanding of the cosmos, perhaps even a record of celestial phenomena? The technical achievement of the masks cannot be understated. Casting large, thin-walled bronze pieces requires advanced metallurgy, precise control of temperature, and sophisticated molds. The Sanxingdui artisans achieved this thousands of years ago, long before the widespread technological developments in neighboring regions. The methods remain a topic of fascination. How were such massive works created without the benefit of written instructions, industrial tools, or formal engineering manuals? Each mask stands as a testament to human ingenuity, a bridge between imagination, ritual, and technical skill. Even today, the masks evoke a visceral response. Their exaggerated features, frozen in bronze for over 3 millennia, seem to hold a gaze that transcends time, inviting modern viewers into a dialogue with the ancient past. Walking among them in museums or examining them in photographs, one senses a civilization reaching across millennia, its intentions partly obscured, but its power and presence unmistakable. The masks embody mystery not only through what they depict, but also through what remains unknown. The stories, beliefs, and cultural practices of a society that vanished so completely from the historical record. The Sanxingdui Masks, like the hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni, the Sumerian king list, and the Sardinian giant statues, remind us that human creativity and ritual expression are universal, yet endlessly diverse. They challenge our assumptions about cultural development, suggesting that advanced, sophisticated civilizations can emerge in isolation, flourish, and disappear with their knowledge largely lost. How much do these masks tell us about the worldview of the Sanxingdui people? What other artifacts, knowledge, or records might still lie buried beneath the plains of Sichuan, waiting for patient eyes and hands to reveal them? As one contemplates the silent gaze of the Sanxingdui masks, it becomes clear that the ancient world continues to speak in subtle, haunting ways. Each face invites reflection, curiosity, and wonder, urging us to explore further, to question our assumptions, and to recognize that human history is far richer, more complex, and more mysterious than the fragments that survive. The masks endure as both art and enigma, beckoning us to consider what else remains hidden, waiting to illuminate the lost worlds of our collective past. From the monumental bronze masks of Sanxingdui, silent witnesses to a civilization that flourished and vanished in mystery, our journey now leads us westward to the rugged terrain of central Anatolia, where an underground labyrinth defies imagination and engineering alike, the Tunnels of Derinkuyu. Hidden beneath the modern town in the Cappadocia region lies a sprawling subterranean city, carved entirely from soft volcanic rock, descending multiple stories into the earth. A feat of human ingenuity that challenges our understanding of prehistoric and medieval societies alike. Derinkuyu is staggering in scale. Its tunnels extend over 60 meters deep, linking chambers, corridors, storage rooms, stables, wells, and ventilation shafts in a coherent and surprisingly sophisticated layout. The passageways wind like a subterranean river, narrow in places, broad in others, guiding explorers through a network that could house tens of thousands of people. Air shafts allow light and fresh air to penetrate the depths, while heavy stone doors could be rolled into place to seal off sections, protecting inhabitants from invaders or other external threats. Even today, walking through these corridors evokes awe. The cool, dimly lit passages, the echoes of footsteps, and the smooth, sculpted walls create an atmosphere that is both claustrophobic and sacred. Archaeologists generally believe that Derinkuyu was created during the Byzantine era, around the 8th to 10th centuries CE, possibly earlier in parts, to serve as a refuge against raiding armies and hostile neighbors. Historical accounts suggest that early Christians and other communities may have used these tunnels to hide, preserving not only their lives, but also cultural and religious practices under the watchful gaze of aggressors. Yet, the scale and complexity of the city far exceed what would seem necessary for mere refuge. Why invest decades, if not centuries, in constructing a subterranean labyrinth of such magnitude? What knowledge and organizational skill allowed builders to plan ventilation, water supply, and structural integrity in a place largely hidden from the surface? Some chambers hint at purposes beyond mere survival. Certain rooms appear ceremonial, with niches that may have held altars or religious artifacts. Other areas contain communal kitchens, storage for grain, oil and wine, and stables for livestock. The integration of living, working, and defensive spaces demonstrates an understanding of both engineering and social organization that is striking for its era. Yet much about the tunnels remains unexplained. How did ancient builders manage to excavate such vast volumes of rock without modern machinery? How did they maintain structural stability across multiple levels, avoiding collapses in a soft volcanic substrate? These questions linger, inviting speculation about the technical and cultural knowledge of the builders. The tunnels themselves are a marvel of both simplicity and sophistication. Rolling stone doors, some weighing several tons, could be moved from the inside to isolate sections, providing both security and tactical advantage. Hidden wells supply water deep underground, while ventilation shafts reach the surface, carefully aligned to circulate air throughout the labyrinth. The spatial planning is precise. Corridors lead naturally from living areas to storage, to communal spaces, and to hidden exits, suggesting not only practical function, but intentional design. Were these tunnels purely defensive, or did they serve a ceremonial, communal, or even symbolic purpose for those who dwelled within them? Speculative interpretations extend the mystery further. Some researchers propose that Derinkuyu may be a remnant of an older pre-Byzantine civilization, adapted and expanded over centuries. The sheer scale suggests accumulated knowledge across generations, possibly inherited from an earlier culture familiar with subterranean construction. Others suggest esoteric or ritualistic significance, noting that the tunnel's labyrinthine design could symbolize a journey from the surface world to an underworld, a spiritual descent reflecting cycles of life, death, and renewal. Could the tunnels themselves have been intended as more than shelters, places where the physical and metaphysical converged? Evidence of sudden abandonment in some areas adds to the enigma. Certain sections show signs of rapid departure. Food stores left behind, doors sealed, corridors intact. What event prompted these hurried exits? Were the tunnels only partially occupied at times, or did they serve as temporary refuges during periods of crisis? The absence of definitive records means that, like the Sanxingdui Masks or the hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni, Derinkuyu offers more questions than answers, leaving us to piece together meaning from fragments of stone, architecture, and oral history. Even today, the tunnels inspire awe and curiosity. Modern exploration reveals narrow staircases spiraling downward, silent chambers where light barely penetrates, and hidden exits that hint at routes lost to history. Standing in the deepest levels, one feels the weight of centuries pressing down, the ingenuity of countless hands shaping rock, the lives of those who sought refuge or ritual experience in the darkness. The tunnels evoke both human resilience and the enduring mystery of civilizations that leave traces more profound than records or monuments alone. The tunnels of Derinkuyu, like the Sanxingdui Masks, the hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni, and the Sumerian king list, remind us that humanity has long sought to manipulate its environment, to create protective, sacred, or symbolic spaces that transcend immediate necessity. They challenge us to consider the breadth of human knowledge, creativity, and spiritual ambition in eras we often underestimate. How many techniques, cultural practices, or symbolic systems have been lost to time? How much remains hidden beneath the surface, awaiting rediscovery by patient eyes and careful hands? As we emerge from the labyrinthine depths of Derinkuyu, the tunnel's silence lingers, echoing both the ingenuity and the mystery of their creators. They are monuments not only to survival, but to vision, craftsmanship, and the human desire to shape space in accordance with both practical and spiritual imperatives. And they invite us, as with all great archaeological enigmas, to ponder what else lies hidden beneath the soil, rock, and memory of our world. waiting to reveal the forgotten stories of civilizations that shaped the path of human history. From the labyrinthine depths of Derinkuyu, where entire communities carved their survival and ritual into the earth, our journey now stretches across the globe to the arid plains of southern Peru, where the desert itself bears silent testimony to an ancient and enigmatic civilization. Here, etched into the dusty surface of the Nazca Desert, lie the Nazca Lines, vast, precise geoglyphs that have puzzled explorers, archaeologists, and historians since their discovery. Spanning hundreds of square kilometers, these lines form images of animals, humans, and geometric shapes, visible only from the air or from the towering ridges that punctuate the desert floor. The Nazca lines are staggering in scale and precision. Some depict monkeys, hummingbirds, spiders, and even humans, stretching hundreds of meters across the arid terrain. Geometric figures, spirals, trapezoids, and intersecting lines crisscross the desert, creating a web of symbols that seems almost deliberately designed for observation from above. Carved between 500 BCE and 500 CE, the lines were created by removing the reddish-brown iron oxide-coated pebbles that cover the desert surface, revealing the lighter-colored soil beneath. This simple technique, however, resulted in forms so enduring that they have survived millennia in extreme climatic conditions. The scale and clarity of the geoglyphs immediately raise profound questions. How did the Nazca people, working without aerial perspective, manage to create such precise forms, with lines extending for kilometers and complex figures maintaining proportion across vast distances? Did they rely on sophisticated surveying techniques, primitive scaffolds, or some now-lost understanding of geometry and measurement? Or were these lines conceived as messages or symbols intended for divine observation, meant to be seen by the gods above, rather than by people on the ground? Scholars have proposed various mainstream explanations for the lines. Some suggest they were part of ritual pathways used in ceremonies to invoke water, fertility, or agricultural prosperity in an arid environment. Others propose astronomical functions, noting alignments with solstices or celestial events. Yet, while some lines may indeed have served practical or symbolic purposes, the sheer number, diversity, and scale of the geoglyphs suggest that a more complex or layered meaning may have existed, one that modern science struggles to fully decipher. The images themselves are extraordinary. Animals, insects, and birds, some stylized, others strikingly naturalistic, dominate the landscape. Some anthropomorphic figures appear enigmatic, with outstretched arms, unusual proportions, or mysterious appendages. Could these representations encode mythologies, spiritual beliefs, or cosmological knowledge? Were they a form of communication, a ritual language, or a symbolic calendar? Or were they intended as markers for water sources, trade routes, or territorial boundaries, their purpose now lost to time? The methods by which the Nazca created these enormous designs are as puzzling as their purpose. Archaeologists have reconstructed plausible surveying techniques using ropes, wooden stakes, and grids, showing that humans could create large-scale forms without aerial assistance. Yet even with these reconstructions, the precision and planning required remain impressive, suggesting careful observation, coordination, and possibly a deep cultural or spiritual impetus driving their creation. The lines are not random. They are deliberate, with proportions, symmetry, and continuity maintained over immense distances. Speculative interpretations have long added an aura of mystery. Some theorists propose that the geoglyphs were created for aerial beings, whether divine messengers or, in modern imagination, extraterrestrial visitors. Others suggest the lines functioned as a ritual interface between humans and celestial forces, a landscape designed to resonate with astronomical events or cosmic energy. While these ideas remain unverified, they underscore the profound challenge of understanding the Nazca lines. A civilization left an enduring mark on the earth, yet the meaning behind it is tantalizingly out of reach. The environment of the Nazca Desert itself adds to the enigma. Rainfall is minimal, temperatures fluctuate drastically, and wind and erosion are constant threats. Yet the lines have endured for over 15 centuries, preserved by a combination of climate and careful construction. Could the creators have known their work would endure? Or was the longevity a fortunate consequence of location and material choice? The desert becomes a living archive, its surface a canvas that has preserved not just art, but the cultural intent of a civilization whose written records, if they existed, have vanished. Observing the Nazca lines today, either from the few elevated viewpoints or from the air, evokes a sense of connection across millennia. One can imagine processions, rituals, and ceremonies unfolding, figures moving along the straight and curved paths, engaging with a landscape meticulously crafted to communicate, honor, or invoke. The lines speak to a sophisticated awareness of scale, proportion, and human perception, as well as a spiritual or cultural vision capable of shaping the desert itself. The Nazca lines, like the Tunnels of Derinkuyu, the Sanxingdui Masks, and the hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni, remind us that human societies have long pursued extraordinary feats of design, ritual, and symbolism, leaving marks that challenge modern understanding. They compel us to ask, how much knowledge, cosmology, or cultural practice has been lost to time? How many mysteries lie hidden in plain sight, awaiting interpretation, study, and reflection? As the desert sun casts shadows over the sweeping figures of hummingbirds, monkeys, and spirals, the lines endure as a silent testament to ingenuity, devotion, and mystery. They invite us to ponder the intentions of their creators, to imagine the rituals, beliefs, and observations that gave rise to such enduring marks, and to wonder what other secrets the earth holds, written across landscapes in forms still waiting to be fully understood. From the sweeping vistas of the Nazca Desert, where lines etched into the earth have endured for millennia as silent witnesses to a civilization's rituals and cosmology, our journey continues along the arid coast of Peru, where another enigma awaits in the sands and hills. The Ica Stones. Unlike the massive geoglyphs that stretch across the desert floor, the Ica Stones are small, handheld artifacts, polished and engraved with intricate images that provoke both fascination and controversy. Each stone is a window into a past that challenges conventional chronology, scientific understanding, and the limits of human imagination. The Ica Stones vary widely in size, from fist-sized pieces to larger slabs, but all share a distinctive smoothness and a remarkable level of detailed engraving. Some depict everyday scenes, farming, hunting, and medical procedures that suggest a surprisingly sophisticated understanding of anatomy. Others portray creatures that defy known history, dinosaurs interacting with humans, flying machines, and hybrid beings. The visual language is precise, the lines carefully incised, suggesting artisans skilled not only in stonework, but also in conveying complex narratives. Holding one of these stones, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history, the tactile connection to a civilization whose knowledge and imagination seem far beyond what we typically expect from pre-Columbian South America. The stones first gained attention in the 1960s, when Dr. Javier Cabrera, a Peruvian physician and avid collector, began assembling a large collection from local farmers in the Ica province. The farmers claimed the stones had been discovered in nearby caves and valleys, buried for centuries, and passed down through generations. Each stone, with its enigmatic engravings, appeared to tell a story, a fragment of knowledge, or a lesson from a forgotten culture. Cabrera meticulously documented thousands of these stones, noting the variety of scenes and the extraordinary level of detail. Mainstream scholars have been cautious. Many argue that the stones are hoaxes, created in modern times to sell to collectors and tourists. They point to inconsistencies in provenance, stylistic differences, and a lack of direct archaeological context. The scientific community remains divided, with some asserting that the depictions of dinosaurs, for example, could not predate modern paleontological knowledge. Yet the stones themselves are undeniably compelling objects. The engravings exhibit depth, precision, and a variety of scenes so consistent that it is difficult to dismiss the possibility of cultural origin entirely. The images on the stones provoke profound questions. Scenes of advanced surgical procedures, cataract operations, and intricate medical practices suggest a civilization with a knowledge of anatomy and medicine far more advanced than previously assumed for the region and era. Other stones depict humans interacting with creatures long thought extinct, including pterosaurs and large herbivorous dinosaurs, raising the question, were these purely imaginative depictions, symbolic representations, or records of a lost historical reality? Could the stones preserve memories, myths, or ancestral knowledge now lost to time, encoded in stone for future generations to discover? Equally intriguing are the depictions of flying machines, advanced tools, and astronomical symbols. Some researchers suggest these images might reflect observations of celestial phenomena or technological concepts that have vanished from the historical record. Others propose that the engravings encode ritual, spiritual, or cosmological knowledge, using symbolic representation to preserve beliefs and practices. Each stone becomes a puzzle, a fragment of a worldview that hints at complexity, imagination, and perhaps scientific insight beyond what is acknowledged by conventional history. The craftsmanship of the stones also commands attention. The engravings are not shallow scratches. They are deep, deliberate incisions, often polished and detailed with care. Many of the stones show evidence of prolonged handling and use, suggesting they were more than decorative objects. The artisans appear to have understood both narrative storytelling and the technical requirements of stone engraving, creating durable works capable of surviving centuries, even millennia, in challenging environmental conditions. The controversy surrounding the stones adds to their mystique. While skepticism is warranted, it cannot entirely erase the allure and complexity of these artifacts. If some stones were indeed ancient, they hint at lost knowledge, undiscovered civilizations, or historical realities that challenge accepted timelines. If modern, the skill, imagination, and cultural storytelling they represent are still extraordinary, revealing how human beings across time have grappled with mortality, history, and the mysteries of the natural world. Either way, the Ica Stones compel us to look beyond conventional narratives, to question what has been forgotten, and to explore the boundaries of possibility in human history. The Ica Stones, like the Nazca Lines, the Tunnels of Derinkuyu, and the Sanxingdui Masks, remind us that human expression takes many forms, some monumental, others intimate, some subterranean, others etched in stone for the eye of the gods. They challenge us to consider the depth and sophistication of cultures often underestimated or overlooked. How much knowledge has been lost, buried, or misinterpreted over the centuries? What other artifacts, stories, or traditions lie hidden, waiting to illuminate a past that may be far richer, stranger, and more complex than we ever imagined? As one holds a polished Ica stone, tracing the grooves of a long-extinct creature or the delicate lines of a surgical scene, it is impossible not to wonder about the lives and minds that produced it. Who engraved these images, and why? What knowledge, observation, or belief did they wish to preserve? And what other secrets, encoded in stone, desert, or underground labyrinths, remain buried, waiting for patient eyes to rediscover the mysteries of a world that continues to astonish, challenge, and inspire us today?